Boomtown Casino main event. Let's give our final 9 a round of applause. In the 1 seat here, we have Jason Durson with 1,005,000 in chips. He's going to go by Turk Durson from Biloxi, Mississippi. Let's give Turk in the 1 seat a round of applause. 75 players here at our Boomtown Casino main event. Let's give our final 9 a round of applause. With 1,040,000 in chips from Jackson, Mississippi. Jonathan's best. He actually made the final table in Vicksburg. In the 1 seat here, we have Jason Jonathan a round of applause. In the 2 seat, 5,000 in chips. He's going to go by Turk Durson from Biloxi, Mississippi. Let's get Turk in the 1 seat. We have Sylvester with 1,250,000 chips. Ed is the chip leader. 1 million in the 3 seat from Richmond, Texas. Ed actually got 12th at Kansas City. He got before, so he got Ed's first HPT final table. In the 2 seat, 3 seat round of applause. He's going to go by Turk Durson from Biloxi, Mississippi. Let's get Turk in the 1 seat. We have Ed Sylvester with 1 million. Ed in the 3 seat here. He's actually donating all of his winnings to the Congregation of Holy Cross from Richmond, Texas. Ed actually got 12th at Kansas City. He got before, so nice job, Ed. I'm sure they appreciate that. Ed is donating all of his wins from this tournament today. And in the 4th seat, we have Big Phil Trudeau with 1,130,000 chips from New Orleans, Louisiana. Let's get Big Phil in the 4th seat. Round of applause. To the Congregation of Holy Cross. This is Big Phil's first HPT final table. And in the 5 seat, we have Seth Foster with 580,000 chips. Ed is donating Texas. Let's give Seth in the 5 seat. Round of applause. In the 4th seat, we have Big Phil Trudeau with 1,130,000 chips. Also Seth's first HPT final table. And in the 6th seat, we have Jeff Sager with 1,100,000 chips from New Orleans. This is Louisiana. Let's give Jeff in the 6th seat. Round of applause. And in the 5 seat, we have Seth Foster with 580,000 chips. Ed is donating Texas. Let's give Seth in the 5 seat. Round of applause. And in the 7th seat, we have Alan Chainsaw Kessler with 680,000 chips from Las Vegas, Nevada. In the 7th seat, a round of applause. 100,000 chips from New Orleans. This is Louisiana. Let's give Jeff. In the 6th seat is actually Alan's 5th HPT final table. His best so far is a 3rd. Alan was actually Player of the Year in 2014. And in the 8th seat, we have Gene Chainsaw Kessler with 680,000 chips from Las Vegas, Nevada. Gene with 1 million even in chips from Mayfield Heights, Ohio. Let's give Gene in the 8th seat a round of applause. The 6th seat is actually Alan's 5th HPT final table. Gene's first HPT final table was actually in the 9th seat. We have Philip with 460,000 chips from Houston, Texas. Let's give Philip in the 9th seat a round of applause. And want to introduce a few more people here. We have let's give Gene in the 8th seat. Ken Lambert here. Orleans, Louisiana. We had 275 players. We're down to our final 9. Let's get the cards in the air.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Dominic Siebert here, along with Nick Jivkov.
Hello,
here for the, well, good morning, I guess, in some place. If you're west of our location right now, good afternoon if you're here locally or on the East Coast.
We actually haven't played any hands at this level yet, so this level is going to be 5,000 ante, 20,000, 40,000 on the blinds. Go ahead and deal.
Finally make it down here to the Gulf Coast, where there is always some great poker action.
Our button here is in the 1 seat on Turk in the 1 seat.
HPT final
and
table
Big Phil's going to be first stacked here in the 4 seat. 40,000 is our big blind.
Well, actually over 60,000, I guess, if you include our little package for the Tournament of Champions.
Phil's going to fold.
One thing people
over to
will
Seth in the 5 seat. 40,000 is our big blind.
That, we do not have hole cards for our players today. Unfortunately, we were not able to
Seth is going to raise to 90,000. 90,000 is the current bet.
So it's going to be a little bit old school. We're going to be, Nick, we're going to be guessing.
We're going to have to work our magic
Yeah.
and rely on our reads. And
usually when I saw a joke on Twitter probably about 2 weeks ago from a player that I thought was pretty good, and I think it describes my limited play pretty well. It says whenever I think I have someone arranged properly, he usually turns over a guess who card and a potato. And so we may be in that situation today. One thing we would like to point out here at the start very quickly, the chip stacks, particularly at the top, are very even right now. 5 big blinds.
Jeff is going to re-raise here to a total bet of 310,000.
Pretty low.
310,000. Actions folded around to Philip in the 9th seat.
So I expect to see some.
Philip folds over to the Turk in the 1 seat. 310,000 is the current bet.
Consolidate.
And
actions
here we
fold
go.
around to Ed in the big blind now.
A re-raise here.
Ed's going to fold. Actions back to Seth in the 5 seat.
Jeff Sager has made it $310,000, re-raising Seth's initial open. And putting Seth to the test right here, obviously, is he'll cost him nearly half of his remaining chip stack to call on the very first hand. You know he can't be excited about that.
No, he's not.
And he's going to give it up. And Jeff, who I believe has, Jeff, one of our locals here, we have a pretty diverse final table in that respect. We have 2 players here from New Orleans, 3 Texans, 2 Mississippians, right in the 1 and 2 seat, in fact. The Mississippi guys are right next to each other. And a couple interlopers, one from the Midwest, almost your neck of the woods in Ohio.
Yes.
Nick is a player from the Chicago area.
Kavichechi. He's from Mayfield Heights, Ohio.
And we also have the interloper from Nevada, one Alan Chainsaw Kessler, who I'm sure 80 to 90% of the people are tuning in to see either if he does well or his demise. I know he's a very polarizing figure on the poker circuit, but he's a great guy.
Yeah, he's a friend of mine. We've commentated a couple of final tables together, and now it's a pleasure to commentate in his final table, going for his 264th min cash.
Min cash, yes. He's a little bit above min cash this time. But yeah, by far the most prolific player at this final table, over $3 million in tournament earnings, former HPT Player of the Year. And I believe the next highest person doesn't even have $250,000 in career earnings. Jonathan Hart, he's around 2.25, right?
Yeah, he's got about 225.
Yeah.
And then
we have our first flop of the day here. John to Big Phil. John defended his blind against Jonathan's raise to 100,000. We do have 2 guys named Philip at this table, and if you can't tell the difference between Philip and Big Phil, you have a serious problem. Philip is in the 9 seat, one of our Texans, and he's just a regular-looking, slightly elderly gentleman. Big Phil right here.
He's Big Phil.
You can see why he's called Big Phil. Jonathan's bet 125,000 on this flop right here, and a check raise from Big Phil to 300,000 on this board. Very simple board here. 6-4 deuce rainbow.
How did the action go pre-flop? I was reading
pre-flop. You had a limp.
John raised.
Jonathan raised off the button, and
Big Phil just called.
Yeah, it was a min raise on the button, and Big Phil called out of the big blind.
He just defended his big blind.
And now he is check raised on a deuce 4-6.
Yeah, Phil's got 23 blinds. He should be defending that big blind pretty liberally. So,
especially on only a min raise. And counting out the chips to make a call here, Jonathan is going to do so. The blue chips on the table are 5Ks, and the blue chips are 25Ks. Right. The gray chips are 5Ks. We do have 100K chips that will come into play later. Board pairs on the turn.
It shouldn't change much. It's actually now. Big Phil checks again.
Jonathan's got to be wondering here, okay, so you didn't re-raise me pre, and then you check raise me on a seemingly innocuous flop, and now the board pairs are going to check at me again. I wouldn't be surprised if he checks back here.
He probably should be checking back a big part of his range. I think Big Phil is trying to play the story that he doesn't have anything. He tried to steal it on the flop by check raising, and then once he got called, he's given up. Now, that could be true, or he can be setting a double trap. hoping that the John's got a big overpair now with the deuces pairing. He's going to go for a value bet. But then again, this is a bad card for Phil. He could have been counterfeit. Let's say, for example, if he had 6-4 and John is sitting behind him with a big pair.
Any pair,
two pair just got counterfeited. I
Yeah.
mean, what's he trying to rep with that check raise? He either has a 6 or a 4. He's trying to rep that he's got the 3-5. That's,
if you've
which
got
is, he's not going to be check raising. He's not going to be check raising if he flopped a set or if he flopped a straight. So, in my opinion, most likely, I think he just.
If you've got a 6-4 in this situation, again with with boards that have such small cards on it, wouldn't you, if you were going to check raise, wouldn't you check jam in that kind of situation? Would that be a better play?
I mean, with these stacks, that would be the play to go. I don't. You shouldn't be dabbling too much into putting, a quarter of your stack in the pot and then giving up on it. So, that probably would be the play. Just hope that, John does have an overpair and he's going to go and call it off.
And like we said, we're talking about a lot of the inexperience among these final table players. Jonathan is actually one of the players who does have some experience. He was a final table participant at one of our Vicksburg events here a few years ago.
Jonathan, if you judge by just total career earnings, is the second most experienced player in this table after Alan Kessler. So he's,
Jonathan is firing again here, probably about half a stack.
25,000 is the bet by Jonathan. And back to back on the 4C.
321. That's a pot committee. That's a pot committee bet. He's basically saying that I don't care who you have.
I'm not going away.
I'm not going anywhere. I have the hand and I'm calling. So he's representing a big pair here. He was the original raiser, so he's representing that. He's got an overpair to the board, and now he's got 2 pair. And he's saying, I don't believe you. I don't believe your check raise. Big Phil
Doesn't believe he has a straight, certainly, which would be.
I mean,
the only thing I think he'd be afraid of right now is 5-3.
Right. Yeah. There's not much else that and he knows he's winning the hand right now because Big Phil would have already been in there.
Absolutely.
So I don't think he's making some Hollywood job right now. I think he just put Jonathan in some type of Broadway hand, ace king, so and he tried to pick it up with just a check raise, but unaware that Jonathan is an experienced player, and that might have worked against an inexperienced player, but experienced players are aware of that, so he knows that board most likely didn't connect with.
When you've got a situation like we have, I'm sure all the players certainly were here yesterday and got to see all the chip stacks that everybody had as we were going to the final table. Certainly went online maybe and looked at things as far as histories and stuff like that. When you get in a situation like this at a final table where it's still it's not even the first half orbit is completed yet, is that a situation where you want to be making those kind of moves that Big Phil just tried there, trying to check raise someone and committing so much of your chips when everybody is so even?
Here's the deal: Big Phil is sitting on, or he started with 1.13 million, which puts him about 3rd overall. Actually, second. He started second in chip. 8 out of the 9 or 7 out of the 9 guys have less chips than you do.
Right.
You got 3 guys that are sitting with 10 big blinds. I would not be making moves against another big stack at this point unless I have a hand. ICM-wise dictates that you should just lay back a little bit, let a couple of these guys knock themselves out, and you shouldn't be getting tricky this early on.
I think you might have bumped into a deuce.
Yeah, if we're going to be calling him the Turk, that's probably the one guy that you don't want to mess with, I'd say.
Jason?
if you're going to call yourself Turk.
I think Jonathan here is going to use his experience. He knows Alan is on the tighter side, and Alan is kind of handcuffed. He only has 14 big blinds, so he can't really make any moves. So I think Jonathan here is going to go for the win.
Be one of our more active players
he's
early
certainly
on.
showing, he's raising again.
Again in position.
We just saw him in the last, so I expect him in position to be making a lot of moves and putting a lot of pressure on these middling stacks because of the ICM consideration, and he understands that a lot of these guys are going to try to money jump and not get out of line.
Ed Sebesta, who was our chip leader at the start of the day, has re-raised here to 275. Ed is going for the Golden Heart Award, or whatever you want to call it, donating all of his winnings today to, I don't know if it's his church, but to a church, the Congregation of the Holy Cross. So
that's pretty respectable.
He's either trying to make up for past sins, or he's a really nice guy, one of the two.
Or both. All right, so John raises here to 95K, and then Ed has 3-bet him to 275.
And a reasonably healthy 3-bet at that.
And again, those are two middling stacks battling, and the small stacks are just sitting there hoping that one of them gets busted and they can money jump. The difference between 9th and 8th is a little over $1,000. It's $1,016. So they would love to just money jump one spot, just by sitting around watching the action.
I did have someone tell me when I was first starting out playing myself, when one of the elderly gentlemen at the table re-raises, it's wise to get out of the way. They don't.
You know what? Times sure have changed since then.
Yeah.
Now, I run into a lot of these old folks, in their 70s and 80s, and I'm looking at this guy and thinking, hey, he's always has it, and then figures out the guy was bluffing the whole time. They're smart. They have a lot of wisdom behind them, and they've picked up on the fact that they can use that image to project an image of being super tight, and in the meanwhile just 3-bet and 4-bet you to that with never having it. And I've run into a couple spots like that where finally some of the guy gets called and he shows like a 3-6 offsuit, and you're like, wow, what?
Yeah, and at the same time, you also have another guy I ran into who said, people said, why would you call off with that? He made a bad play or whatever and lost a bunch of chips and had to rebuy in a cash game. And he was like, I ain't going to leave any of the money to my ungrateful bastard kids. He's going to have fun with it while he's still got it. Jonathan again raising in position out of the hijack this time. We're back to the blinds right now. Seth was one of our short stacks coming into today.
All in.
And he is going to be our first all-in of the day.
And he's asked for a count. Seth is currently all in out of the 5 seats.
430,000 by our count here.
So yeah, Seth is down to 10 big blinds. He has to go all in. I mean, I'm expecting to have. He's most likely shipping with most of his aces, all of his suited aces, Broadway cards. Any pair. Jonathan has been a tidbit aggressive, so he could be opening with anything.
Seth, this is his first cash here at the HPT main event. Although
he's got 25 cashes, in total lifetime earnings of 111,000.
Reasonable,
yeah, he's got the third highest.
So he lied on our questionnaire, basically, is what you're telling me here.
Well, maybe he never played HPTs before.
That might be true. It might be his first HPT
cash. Probably
cash.
His first HPT cash. Sure, not his first lifetime cash. We do have two players here that only have one cash as their lifetime.
Our two guys at the end of the table, the 8-9 seed.
8-9 seed, and Eugene Kavachechi. His first tournament was here last week.
I remember filling out his form actually, saying that he won. We actually had a registration problem with him that was driving us crazy back in the supervisor area earlier on. So I remember his name very well from our opening event. But yeah, he did cash for about $1,000, as I recall. Yeah, 9 to 7.
Yeah, for both of these guys, they've already locked in 9th place, which is their highest lifetime earning of $6,536.
Philip Playchick in the 9 seat is also making his first cash today. So congratulations to those two gentlemen. Jonathan's still pondering what he wants to do here. Now, if you're an experienced player and you're going to adapt sort of an aggressive posture at the final table that Jonathan has here, when the chip stacks are so.
This is Jonathan, right? Because the graphics have him as Jason. And that's what I thought.
Yeah, that was Jonathan there, not Jason there.
We had but yeah, that was Jonathan.
So we shake our fist at our technical crew. No, I'm just kidding. They're doing a wonderful job. And so Seth survives and is getting rid of the stress by chewing on his earbud there.
And this is what happens when the discrepancy of the chip stacks is so even that he can't afford to call and lose, because now he's going to go from the chip leader to one of the short stacks. So, that's certainly running through his head.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of getting at there before Jonathan decided on his fold is when you got position and you want it, and you're an experienced player and you want to kind of test the table and see how things is, and you're raising in late position. You got to be prepared to give up those raises sometimes because you got these short stacks who are going to be pushing a lot more frequently.
Yeah, I mean, he's aware of that, I'm sure. I think this was more Hollywooding than actually him thinking about. I think pretty fairly quickly he knew he wasn't going to call this all in, but he needed to save face, and he wants to keep his aggressive image so he can't just insta-muck and let the other players find out that, you know, he's just opening almost every hand.
Here's what everyone's waiting for. Alan Kessler is in a pot. He's defending his big blind against an under-the-gun raise from Gene Cavacetti. We've got 2 diamonds on the board, king 6 deuce. We will check to the turn.
Turn card is a 5 of diamonds.
Yeah,
3 diamonds on the board now. You would think that if anyone
I would
obviously
think
had a
that,
diamond
yeah,
draw, that someone would have bet the flop.
this would hit Alan's range more than Gene's range.
Buck and a quarter from Alan. Again, this is Gene's first tournament series. Made a cash in event 1. Very pleased with our turnouts here. At New Orleans, we worked hard to get down here, and we had our first guaranteed event.
See if our boy Alan is gonna.
Alan's got a
That
pair.
should be good enough.
Might
Yeah, I
be,
think
yeah.
I think Gene had a Broadway with a diamond, with a big diamond, and that's what he called.
Alan's pair of 3s takes
See,
it
this is a classic example of why the king hits Gene's range a lot of the time. So he should have been c-betting here. This flop 100% of the time. He probably would have gotten 1 call from Alan, and when he picks up the diamond on the turn, Alan would check.
He's not calling anything else.
And then Gene would fire a second barrel and win this spot.
Right.
And this shows you how aggression and knowing where you are in the hand can go from
And
winning
experience,
the pot
playing
to
a factor. We
to
talked
losing
about
the pot.
Gene's inexperience in tournament poker.
Yeah, I expect a lot of these guys with less experience to kind of be playing their hands. And at this stage of the tournament, being this shallow and the blinds increasing pretty quick, you need to play poker, not cards. You need to pick certain spots and, make some double barrel bets and pick up certain pots because every pot right now is key.
3,000 is our big line action filled around the big Phil in the 4 seat. And Big Phil's going to raise it up to 100,000. 100,000 is the current bet. Action filled around Alan in the small blind.
Alan Kessler looking to play 2 pots in a row here. And it looks like he's going to play this for a little bit more money.
Alan has aces.
We had a hand yesterday where Alan 4-bet shoved, and we were trying to figure out when the last time Alan 4-bet shoved anything. And he did in fact have aces, and he did win the hand.
We're talking about a man that walks around with a T-shirt that says, "Stay calm and wait for aces."
Can I get a booster seat? Can I get a booster seat? Can I get a booster seat?
And Phil's going to lay it down, and that's back-to-back pots for Chainsaw. And he's now up over $1 million in chips.
I'm not even kidding at all.
I'm like leaning this way.
He was one of our short stacks coming into today, one of the 3 shorties.
I mean, that's all it takes is with
Yeah.
the chips being so evenly distributed. All you need to do is win a couple of small pots. You don't even need to double up. Just winning a couple of small pots and you're in contention.
It's the same affiliation with the Black Hawk.
I mean, Alan is a very smart player. I don't expect him to make any mistakes. So I wouldn't be surprised if even with the short stack, he can secure himself like a top 4 finish.
Yeah, no play here. Just gave him a fair number. They're really nice about that.
Alan has had some unusual runouts for him during the course of this event that have been chronicled on the blogs that we've had, and Dan's done a wonderful job with that with Hold'em Radio and the HPT updates. But he's come back from the dead several times. He had one I recall that was I think it was Alan had Ace Jack, and it was against either an Ace Queen or an Ace King, and Alan turned quad jacks. he was just walking around mumbling to himself, "How does that happen?" Because he's been burned on aces a few times during the course of this series, certainly, and he said in talking to him during the course of a lot of the early part of this year.
5,000, 20,000, 40,000 on the blinds. With 275.
Yeah, we had a misburn on the screen there for a couple of hands. The blinds are actually 20 and 40, not 25 and 50.
Ninth place today is going to pay just over $6,500. First place today, almost $60,000 for $3,600 championship package and the HPT main event bracelet. 40,000 is the big blind.
So we're on the verge of completing our first orbit here, and surprisingly, with all these even stacks and a couple of shorties, no one has been eliminated yet. I thought we would get at least one bust out here pretty early on.
110 is the range by Phil.
But again, I think, Nick, that's kind of good to see that you know, so many people just say, well, yeah, they've got to have 40 bigs or I'm just not comfortable in tournament poker anymore. They just want to raise and shove and shove and shove and shove and hopefully get them feeling a little bit better about their chip size. But you know, you don't get a whole lot of final table opportunities, and I think some people tend to be a little bit impatient, kind of waste those chances.
Well, you definitely have to be in the zone.
And Turk's gonna fold in. We're gonna
You know, I
be
mean,
heads up.
we're talking about $60,000 first place.
Absolutely.
And you know, to a lot of these guys, this is a lot of money, especially
To me, it's a lot of money.
Eight of diamonds, three of hearts.
and especially to
Big
the
Phil in the fourth seat's gonna be first. He
to the
checks
guys
right
who, you know, are more inexperienced and don't have a lot of lifetime earnings. They might tend to freeze up a little more and try to money jump, which is the wrong strategy with these blinds and these stack sizes. I mean,
Three
you
of diamonds, Big Phil's gonna be first.
We got a similar board to what we had with Gene and Alan earlier. Now it's Alan and Big Phil. Once again, king high diamond flush is on the turn with a paired board.
125,000.
And Alan is going to fire at that. And Big Phil, who has gotten
Back to Big Phil. 125,000 is the current bet.
a little bit short here with some of his early moves, is going to make the call of Alan's turn bet.
Current card is the 10 of spades. Big Phil's
same
gonna be
river
first
too, 10 of
Check,
a
check.
black
On
10
the river,
with
let's see
this.
what-
And two checks, and is Alan going to have something to take it down here? I think he is. Yes, another pocket pair here for Alan Kessler. Pocket sevens
And that's
is good enough.
That's a good value bet on the turn. He realized that
Yeah.
Big Phil does not have a king, and he's going to call him off chasing a lot of diamonds, so he did value bet those sevens in the turn. And then the 10 didn't change anything, so Alan Kessler checked it with intention to call, in my opinion, if Big Phil bet on the river. That's a move that you're basically not going to get called by any hand that you beat, but you can induce a missed diamond draw to make a bet and try to pick it up. So it's a very standard check call on the river, but Big Phil checked behind, and Alan Kessler now has increased his stack
He's
over
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 close
a
to the
million.
chip lead, I would imagine.
1.45.
Crappy hands.
And he just went from 14 big blinds to just about 30 big blinds.
At 5-2
Now
might be the
he
worst
can
speed
play
I've
some
taken in a
poker.
critical spot.
Just over 15 minutes left in this level. 40,000 is
Big
the
Phil,
one.
understandably frustrated, as
And the 5 seat's gonna raise to 100,000.
he did win an early pot.
As the raise actually folded
Became
around the 12 on the button.
one of the top two stacks, and we have another all in here. The other Phil, as I'm talking about Big Phil, this is
Yeah,
Phil
Phil Playcheck is
He came in the short
short,
stack.
and
Yeah.
he's still the short stack. So
and
have an
Seth
all-in
is
and a call?
called out of the 5 seat off the button, and
Seth has ace
Seth
queen
is
of
in the
spades,
lead here
and
off the rip. Ace queen against King Jack, I believe, is what
Phil
I saw there.
Playcheck waited for
He waited
that
for two
pocket
Broadway
kings?
cards. No, it's King. Is it Kings or King Jack? It is Pocket Kings. Excuse me, Pocket Kings.
pocket kings.
So nice hand to pick up here with about 8
And
bigs.
he's got about 70% equity, and now he's just praying that an ace doesn't peel.
Ace of spades, queen of spades.
Certainly an understandable call from Seth at this point, and also with the top 10
Currently in the
hand.
lead, but his tournament life is at risk. Let's see the flop.
We will see what things hold for Phil here. As he is the one at risk, and oh goodness gracious, ace in the window and one right behind it.
Three aces. And is now in the lead.
I played this tournament. I fired one bullet in flight, 1C, and had pocket kings 4 times,
Let's see the turn card.
and 4 out of 4 times an ace flop.
That's no fun.
Seven of
And
spades.
this
Seth is still in the lead.
Again, right out in the window. First card was the ace of hearts.
Philip is standing
now
up, not
Philip's
feeling good about his two-out
Yes,
chances here.
2 outs. He needs a king and a king only, and
It is a face card, but the wrong one.
Seth makes a full house.
It's a full house
We
indeed
have
for
our
Seth.
first elimination. Philip
Playcheck
takes 9th place for $6,536, and that's his second career cash, taking his lifetime earnings to a little over $7,000. Good job, Phil.
Good job for Phil, but you know he's got to be feeling certainly disappointed. He was waiting as a short stack for a hand like that to come up. He gets an opportunity to shove with pocket kings.
It's a
and
little
it does not come
disheartening when
through
you
for
come
him.
in as the short stack.
Yeah.
You kind of expect to be the last person out, but then you get it in kings versus ace queen, 70% favorite, and all of a sudden you have some hope. You know, if he doubles up there, he's got 20 big blinds, he's got a playable stack, and it just wasn't in the cards.
Clearly the dealer's fault.
It's
This is
always-
one thing that I've learned in 10 years of working in this industry. It is always the dealer's fault.
Like a top 5 hand.
I actually expected you to.
And now we're down to 8 players.
Was he the button last hand?
Phil Phil was one of our 3 Texans, and originally from Montreal, Canada.
40,000 is our big blind.
He can stay here for a few hands and they're okay. Yeah, I'm cool with that.
8 players now left in our HPT Boomtown New Orleans main event. Each player guaranteed just over $7,500 at this point, fighting for a first place prize of over $60,000,
Yes,
including our
Seth
tournament
was
package.
happy to see Phil go out. He's down to 10 big blinds. He's the short stack at the moment, and he just made a $1,000 money jump.
And Seth is going into action here again. He has made the pre-flop raise out of the shotgun.
And looking at the Twitter chat, Dominic got some props saying that he's really good at the commentary. You should do this more often, Dominic.
Well, a little hidden fact about me before I got into the poker business. I was in the broadcasting business for a good 8 to 10 years. Actually started doing some work in high school. I was in sports radio for about 98 to 2006. Seth has C-bet there to take down that pot.
That 10 jack.
And Seth is now gone from one of our short stacks as well to over $1 million in chips.
8th place today is going to pay 7,000, just over 7,500. And first place once again almost 60,000.
He just glancing around the table right there as we pan around. It looks like Alan Kessler may be our chip leader at this point, close to
I'm
$1,500,000.
updating my chip stacks right now.
Him and Jonathan Hart, the 2 players that we said had the most experience and we expected to do well, have taken advantage here in this first orbit to move up the ladder and make their presence felt here at the final table. As I was saying here before we had that all in, very excited. Those of us who work on the HPT reasonably regularly to be able to make it down here to New Orleans for the first time. We had our big 100K guarantee event. Had a
And just to let the viewers know,
huge field, and we had 2 guys chop $22,000 a piece at the top of that prize pool, and now we're looking $60,000 here for our main event. So we'd like to thank all the folks from the Gulf Coast area and beyond who came out here to support us.
yeah, this was the inaugural event of the
Yep.
Boomtown New Orleans. First time ever HPT has been down here, and it drew 275 players, a very
the main event,
respectable field. Total paid were 31 players made it in the money, and now we're down to our final 8 players.
And it could be final 7 as Jonathan wastes no time calling Big Phil's all in here.
195,000 is what Big Phil was all in for. 100.
On a King 6-6 flop.
Jonathan did make the call. Let's see the hands.
Phil seems a little bit perturbed by the whole situation.
Phil shows 9 of clubs, 8 of clubs.
Wow, he just made a total bluff with 9-8 high.
And you got to look at stack size in that situation. Phil is not going to be able to bluff Jonathan off that hand. I don't think
And
with
John
any 2
called him
cards
with
just
queen
about.
high,
Yeah.
and he's good so far.
Third card is the 5 of hearts.
Another heart there.
He picks
ruins
up
some
4
outs
extra outs
for Phil. So
now he's got 7s. He's
although
got 10
he does
outs
have
total.
does have a straight draw, so kind of a wash in the end.
But he lost some outs in the hearts, so he has to hit a 9, a 7. It's not a heart.
7 of diamonds gives Phil the survival.
And this is again a classic example where Big Phil is making moves against another large stack in a spot where he shouldn't be making any moves. You know, there's a lot of short stacks. He can just patiently wait, but he's here to play. He's here to win.
I got 3 actually. One of them couldn't hit.
He's one of our local boys. Obviously wants to do good.
And I'm sure he's about to text me.
And in front of all his, I'm sure he told all his buddies tune into the live stream today on Twitch.
Yeah, we have a couple of local boys, a couple guys from New Orleans, one guy from Shreveport, Louisiana. So there's a little bit of a crowd here on the final table.
You know, it was Jeff, one of his supporters, and the young lady you see right there working on her cell phone behind Jeff and Alan have dealt to and dealt with her, obviously in a positive way, numerous times throughout I've been through New Orleans, traveling the poker circuit here the last 6 or 7 years. And she is here to root on Jeff today. And we've got a re-raise from Ed, who's been very quiet, but has been, when he has spoken up, he has done so with authority.
And he's re-raising the button.
110,000 is the raise from Ed on the button, and Seth defends out of his big blind. And a very juicy board right there.
Yeah, very coordinated flop. There's all kinds of possibilities now. I'm
Both
surprised that
players wasted no time in checking and put a 4th Broadway card on the board.
I think Seth is going to lead out here. When Ed checked back, he pretty much showed sign of weakness, so I think Ed's going to pick up on that and lead into the bet representing the queen.
Your instincts are correct here. 120,000 coming out from Seth.
If I'm correct, then we're done with this hand. I think Ed is going to fold.
I don't think Ed is going to call with just one pair if he's even, as he's pondering here. Although he's looking at stack size.
Unless I mean, he did check quite quick, unless he's setting some type of a trap.
Again, wow, Ed is a player that I have not put on making a whole lot of moves, and he is letting it go here. I was thinking if he had some sort of weak 2 pair, he might hang around to see if he gets the full house on the river. But
again, a perfect example where when you raise and you get the this type of a flop, this flop hits your range a lot harder than it does the big blind defense.
Even if you don't have it representing it there as a board.
So you need to be c-betting here and taking a stab in the pot, and who knows, that could have ended the hand. I mean, you know, the big blind could have defended with like a queen 5 or any range pretty much.
10-8 suited or something.
Yeah, once the 10 peels off on the turn and he puts a 1 card straight on there, he realizes the chances of Ed having a 10 or a queen in his hand are very small. So he would lead out and pick up the pot with only 2 cards.
You like to defend your button? I looked you up.
Jonathan once again, if he gets the chance to open in position, is going to take advantage of it. It's been his strategy here early on.
And it's working. He's not getting played back at too frequently. One time he got played back at and he folded. But the money that you're picking up, you got to understand there's 115,000 in the pot.
Oh, he thought about it and decided better of it.
Maybe he picked up on some physical tell. Or
He did lose
maybe
that.
Ed just tapped him under the table. And said,
Maybe.
"Dude, I have
That
a
might
hand.
be the
Get off
case.
my pot." They are sitting next to each other.
Jonathan did lose that all in there to Big Phil just a moment ago, so he might.
I think he did pick up on the tell from Ed. A lot of times when I'm playing, I will always look at the players to my left, and sometimes a lot of older guys tend to be super excited when they get a hand, and they pretty much just
grab the chips before they even
yeah,
done anything,
they load up to bet, and you know, I've saved myself a lot of times from opening a hand that I ordinarily would open when I see somebody behind me getting ready to make a move.
Jeff Sager defended his big blind against Ed's raise. And this time Ed is not hesitating and putting more chips into the pot.
Yeah.
So that queen 6-3 flop.
So either
was
he
to
took
his
my
liking.
advice or he actually has a hand this time. And he's representing a hand that has a queen or an overpair to the queen.
Or he could have something like tens or jacks, and when he sees Jeff check, thinking, well, he obviously doesn't have a queen then, or he would have let out. Although Jeff does make the call here, and the board is still. That's about the worst Omaha kind of hand.
Jeff is going to check here, and we'll see if Ed is still betting again.
And not hesitating again.
Yeah, he's not afraid. He's saying, I'm not afraid of the queen.
And not afraid of the 9. Again, that board is like the worst Omaha hand possible. Very uncoordinated. And now Jeff's got to be thinking, okay, he's fired twice at that garbage.
Jeff knows that he's not the type of player who is going to fire twice just on air. So he
Jeff
knows
is going to hang around. I'm thinking Jeff might
has
have like a
queen.
middle pair, something like that, like eights maybe or something.
Jeff has at least a queen here. I would if I was him against this particular player. He's got pocket.
Ed's got 9-8, and Jeff does have the queen there.
Yeah, Jeff has a
middling
queen.
queen.
Jeff
queen
has
10.
a queen 100% of the time. And see,
that's surprising to me from Ed. I think
this is again where Ed makes the mistake. I like the flop bet. You know,
but
he's
then the worst thing for him is he hits the turn.
And then he hits the 9, and he should be checking that 9 back 100% of the time. You're not going to get anything that you beat to fold. Just like in this case, the queen is not going to fold. So by checking back, again, you pot control, you keep the pot small, and then you see what happens in the turn or on the river, and you reevaluate.
Going through Ed's mindset, that situation is thinking, okay, well, if he calls my flop bet, and then I hit the 9, he's obviously not putting him on a queen.
Well, there was no draws in that flop. That's the thing you need to figure out. Like, you know, what is he drawing to? What's he calling the flop with? So he has something. He's not floating you with, you know. I mean, he could
an ace high.
With these stacks. Yeah, he couldn't be. He's not floating you. And if he is, you check back and you give him a chance to bluff the river.
Right.
By you betting the turn, you're only getting called by a queen or a pair that beats you. And most of the time, once he calls the turn, he does the wise move and then give up on the river and check back. Most players, if they call the flop and the turn, they're ready to call the river. So.
Even better.
Raise and take it from Jonathan from middle position this time.
Yeah, I don't expect Jonathan to slow down.
This is icing on the cake.
He's going to keep the aggression going.
He's applauding himself.
Until somebody plays back at him.
I had 4 and 8 or whatever.
Still kind of in the danger zone a little bit right now. 25 bigs roughly for Jonathan at this point.
31-28.
Yeah, just to let everybody know, these chips stacks are an estimate. They're not exact, but they're pretty close. So just so you guys know.
We have most of the players behaving in that regard with what they're stacking in chips. Looks like most of these are the standard 20 stack barrels. Everyone has, making it a little bit easier for us, certainly. Jonathan has some work to clean his up, as he just had the walls of Jericho tumble down there while he was trying to look at his hand. But he is going to continue the aggression from the shotgun. Now raising in any position, not just in late position.
95,000 is the current bet. Allen folds over to Gene in the big blind.
Gene not liking his defense possibilities in the big there, and that's back-to-back pots for Jonathan.
Yeah, Gene is down with 12 big blinds. He's, you know, pretty much in a shove or fold spot. And we see Big Phil Trudeau making some questionable moves early on. Was the second stack coming in, and now he's down to 660,000.
Second short stack.
Yeah, now he's the second short stack. again, in my opinion, just being impatient and making some ill-timed bluffs on a boards that you really can't represent much. Like on that King 6-6 board.
Right.
The way the action went pre-flop, it's like, what are you trying to represent there with that check raise all in? But it worked out for him. He got it in with 9 high, got the runner straight, and doubled up.
Who's favorite dealer? Good Lord. Here we go. Where's James at? Where's James at?
So with 275 players.
So we have
What's up, man?
Jason
How you doing?
Thurston. I'm showing here as our chip leader with just about
See you
30
over there
big
talking to my
blinds.
poker coach.
Followed by Alan Chainsaw Kessler, sitting in 1.45.
Jeff Sager in the 6th seat to Alan's right is also pretty healthy right now. Looks to be at about the $1.5 million range.
This is going to be first act here in the 2 seat. 50,000 is our big blind.
Blinds are now up to 25 and 50,000, and he's still at 5K.
Jeremy.
So things are going to
Brad
get,
Pulling is,
I think, a little bit more interesting as we're still looking at about 30 bigs being the top stack of the table at this point.
And I really like the way Jonathan is playing.
He's not
picking-
messing around.
He is opening every single hand. He knows that these guys are not playing back at him. And the good thing about this is when you actually do have a hand and they play back at you.
That's when you catch him.
Yeah, you catch him. You don't get credit for having a big hand.
And in position, Alan Kessler is going to re-raise here.
300,000 is the total re-raise.
300K for Chainsaw.
1 seat, he folds back to Jonathan in the 2 seat. 300,000.
And again,
is the current
Alan
bet.
Kessler re-raising is not something you see very often pre-flop.
Well, John knows that Alan is a smart player and he's paying attention. He knows that Alan knows he's been opening fairly wide, so he can actually make a 4-bet here and put some real pressure on Alan Kessler, because if he makes a 4-bet here, he's gonna make Alan. He's gonna put him in a spot where he technically has to go all in and play for his whole stack. So if he bumps it up here, but then again, he's risking half of his own, or about a third of his own stack, because I don't expect him to 4-bet anything less than 675 to maybe 750,000. And again, now this is the third time in a row that he opened up, and he is under the gun.
Yeah.
So
He's
know,
got
he
looks
actually
like
could
about
have a good hand here.
it looks like he's about 900 or so behind.
Yeah, he's got exactly 900,000 behind.
Maybe a little
so.
bit more if those stacks aren't 20 high. But I mean, if you're looking to 4-bet
Yeah,
here, I'm
I
thinking you're probably going to get it all in.
No, I wasn't paying attention to this
Yeah.
of how much behind he had. Yeah, you're right. Alan actually put him to the test where he's like, if you're going to play in this spot, you're going to have to go all in.
Looking at the notes here from Alan, he's put in his other information, said really well run event here. So
You actually
yeah,
sound like Alan, and the way you enunciate it, I can actually picture him say that.
I'm very pleased to hear that as a member of the tournament staff here, that Alan is not shy about commenting on when he thinks things are out of sorts in some way. So to be able to get a compliment from him, I will take that very strongly and very appreciatively. And to Alan's credit, he can be a little bit nitpicky at times, but you know, it's all about the integrity of the game ultimately, of course.
Yeah,
You know,
the slot machine reaper, Alan
That's
Kessler.
right. Video poker destroyer.
3.326 million in lifetime earnings in poker, and maybe triple that in slot machines.
Maybe. And Alan's going to win a second straight pot here with pre-flop raise. And it looks like he is now our chip leader.
Yeah, with 1.7 million, and then Jeff right behind him.
Jeff Sager right to Alan's right, very quietly, has been very smooth and solid here through our first couple of orbits.
Oh, yeah, she brought him. Okay. Yeah.
And Big Phil is the man in the danger zone here. It looks like both Phil and Gene Cavacetti in our
Yeah,
in our
you
eight
have
seed.
one. I'll drink this one. You have it. I get you can Yeah.
Big Phil will be first to act when he's done doing whatever he was doing with his beverage cart back there.
Yeah, he's down to 13 blinds, so he will not be opening any pots here. He's
Certainly not from under the gun unless he's
he's committing himself to an all-in move, and most likely he's gonna shove all in. Probably behind a John's open, because John is opening everything.
And John looks to be opening again here as it's been folded to him in the small blind.
Jonathan's going to make the call. Option.
Just going to limp here. Our first one of these that we've seen today. Will we have a checked big blind? No, we will not.
Ed announces raise.
Ed is grabbing chips and announcing raise.
That's going to raise to a total bet of.
And I like that raise here because John, he's been so active that him limping on the button pretty much is projecting that he has a hand that he wants to see a cheap flop with, most likely some type of a middling suited connector hand like a 9-8, and he doesn't want to get 3-bet and have to fold, so he likes to just flat the button, hope that a small blind and big blind come along and
Flat
he
the
can
small
play it.
blind.
In the 3 seed's going to win the pot.
Oh, this was blind versus
Yeah,
blind?
that was blind
Okay.
versus blind.
Yeah. Same thing.
We were talking about the inexperienced players early on. It's been kind of interesting here in the first 2 or 3 orbits to watch the different strategies. Big Phil we talked about being a little bit impatient certainly early on, making some ill-timed plays, and then you've got Gene Cavacetti over in the 8 seat, who is about a similar chip stack right now, and he's I think played one hand so far.
He's certainly waiting for a big hand. I mean, he's at the point now where he's got about 12 big blinds, and between like an 8 and 12 big blind stack, the strategy stays the same. So at this point, he's just waiting for a premium hand to get it in with and double up. That's his only chance.
Seth Foster making the pre-flop raise here under the gun.
Ed folds over to Big Phil now in the big blind.
And Big Phil thinking, is this the hand? It is not. And Seth will pay for his orbit right there.
Can I recruit some of your own?
Yeah, that's also something to consider is the M factor, which is how much it's costing each player per orbit, which is 115,000 right now. And basically the M factor is lets you know about how many orbits of play you have left. And Gene has an M of 5, which means that, you know, in 5 orbits, if he doesn't play a hand, he's down to 0. So he needs to, probably within the next couple of orbits, he needs to make a move.
Brad, you're killing me here, buddy.
He is not amused by those holdings. And Jonathan is going to make some more hay here from late position. This time in the cutoff.
Now Jonathan himself is dwindling down a little bit. He's down to about 800 and what is that? 5, 6, 7, 8, about 900,000.
Maybe even a little less than that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, which puts him about 18 blinds. So
And
he's
I
probably
believe
just
he
going to
said
go
all
all
in.
in. Yeah, he
Yes,
has to
he
go
did.
all in here.
Jonathan is all in. Action's on Ed in the 3 seat. He folds. Over to Big Phil in the small line. He folds.
Phil is out.
Over to Seth in the big line. He folds as well.
And he will survive this.
And now
His
he-
first all-in of the day.
He's up to one.
Just over
1
$1 million,
million.
it looks like now. He's definitely been the gunslinger at the table so far. If he's going to go out, he's going to go out firing.
If I looked at the king first, I'd be like, oh, wait a minute.
Now Jason He's down about 700 and
760 it looks like maybe.
760,000, yeah.
760,
So he's
770
pretty
somewhere in
short,
there.
too.
And he's also been very quiet, similar to Gene. His counterpart right now on the other side of our dealer.
25,000, 50,000. Action going around the turn on the 1 seat. Third fold, Jonathan folds over to Ed in the 3 seat.
And we'll see how prudent this
And
move
Big
is from
Phil's all
Phil.
in. But he just raised.
He just raised, yeah. He tripled the blind.
I mean, he's down with 13 bigs. He should be shoving here.
And he gets away with it. He made it 175 actually, not 150. So yeah, that was pretty much a commitment. So
sometimes this signifies a stronger hand than you actually you're supposed to.
Sure.
And I'm not sure if he's aware of that or not, but he's made some strange plays, so I have no idea what he had there.
he's grooving one way or the other.
Oh yeah, he's having fun. That's for sure. He's just happy to be here.
Bouncing around with
Biggest
the
cash
headphones.
of his life was. Now he has five all-time cashes in his career and 16,000 in lifetime earnings, with 14,000 coming from one cash.
So there you go. Yeah. So
he,
this
and
is rarefied air for him.
He's guaranteed 7,000 here. He's a happy camper. And now we got Jeff versus the chainsaw. Small versus big. He's just going to limp in. I expect a check back from Alan. Alan does what he does best. Check.
Commits as few chips to the pot as possible. Without
We're friends,
without
so
enough
I'm going to be
knowledge.
needling Alec. I'm going to be needling Alan this whole broadcast. Hopefully he listens back and has some fun.
Well, he was actually courting some needling on Twitter yesterday. When I let some people know that I was going to be doing the broadcast this afternoon, Alan was saying, well, there might be some friends who come by to tell me how awful I'm playing.
Where your family at?
So,
And you know what? He's playing pretty good here.
he's
He went
been,
from
he,
the
I
short
haven't
stack to
seen,
the
there's
chip
been,
leader.
there's been nothing to criticize about Alan's play to this point, for certain, that's for sure. Although he's trying to, yeah. How did the button get over there? Yeah, there we go. Okay. Yeah, the button got caught up in somebody's something there.
But he's
And
anti and got pushed
ended
across
up,
the
ended
table.
up in seat 1, and Alan had his small blind out and was like, what the heck's going on? And we had 4 blinds on the table for a moment there. So a little bit of confusion there, but I think we've got it all straightened out. I saw 8 any chips. And the blinds are straight.
No, I'm choking on my drink. I drink went the wrong way. I ain't got no cold.
He's probably gonna be sick tomorrow.
Well, who's sick?
I'm sick. He's sick. He's sick.
Oh, geez. I gotta go take my sinus medicine. Why you always have
You heard about the smoke there. We are on a one of those old casino cruise boats, docked, of course,
not allowed to talk?
here in suburban New Orleans. And smoking is permitted all throughout the cruise ship, except for one small corner of the top floor. So we have had a couple of nights here where it's been a little rough smoke-wise.
That's
but,
my only complaint. I don't smoke and I hate smoke. And towards the end of the evening, it tends to get pretty smoky.
Might look a whole lot better.
But obviously this being early afternoon during the weekday.
Mine was 9 high again.
Still talking about that? That's it.
Thank you. My boss has just stuck his head in and said, good job, Dominic.
You can't mess with his blinds.
Don't let it go. Let him serve. Keep it right there.
Uncle
Get
Ron,
angrier.
double A from the chat, in the Twitch chat, says, which one is Big Phil? Ron, as Dominic mentioned earlier, if you have a problem figuring out who Big Phil is at the table,
well,
an issue.
Well, it was the big difference between Phil and Big Phil. The Phil was our first player to be eliminated here today, and he was a regular-looking elderly gentleman. Big Phil obviously is quite different. The only person I think you could compare them to would be Jason, the Turk, who's in the one seat. But Big Phil is there with a Superman shirt, and there's the only thing that's small about Phil right there is his necklace. Yeah.
But Uncle Ron is just having fun.
That's
just all a joke. And we have 214 of you guys joining us.
We appreciate you joining us.
Tweeting on Twitter, telling the whole world Alan Kessler just went from the short stack to the chip leader. You can follow us on Twitter. I am at Nick Zhivkov or at Nick Zhivkov. And Dominic, what is your Twitter handle?
I'm DomJSII.
DomJSII. So give us a follow and trying to stay active on Twitter and Twitch and commentate and pay attention to the hands.
This is one of the first hands we've seen Jason involved in.
Yeah, he's been pretty quiet.
He defended his big blind against Jeff's pre-flop raise. And he is going to make a play at this suited board. It's like 2 1/4 is what he's bet out there, which is about a fourth of his stack.
Yeah, that's a pretty big part of his stack. I don't expect him to be folding here. He's saying that I have a hand, I'm going with it.
And Jeff says, okay, I believe you, and he departs from this particular
Turk, anyone with you out there watching today?
No, at home, man.
At home watching from home on the live stream. That's twitch.tv/HPT.
Jason says his fans and friends and family watching this live stream. Thank you all for tuning in here.
I got about 30 people rooting against me right now. Especially after the Super Bowl. You would think they would be.
Jeff is one of our Jason is one of our 2 Mississippians. Actually, they're both right next to each other there, Jason and Jonathan in the 1 and 2 seats.
I don't want to get free advertisement.
Yeah, we got Jason from Biloxi, Mississippi, and Jonathan Hart from Jackson, Mississippi.
Jacksonville's where I'm from, Jacksonville, Florida. And I'll be looking to get back there and get on the golf course in the next couple of days.
And Ed is under the gun, cutting out what looks to be a... Is that a call? I can't tell. Or
Jonathan is pointing out to him, you realize that's my big blind you're raising there, sir.
I did it right.
And Ed says, I don't care.
And the players are starting to loosen up a little bit. They're starting to have a little bit of fun. I'm surprised there's only been 1 elimination so far.
That's one of the things that I was when I saw the chip stack,
sizes,
saw that that we had everybody was under 40 bigs at the start, and we had we had 6 players within basically 4 big blinds of one another, right at the top of the charts from the 1st to the 6th position. I thought there was going to be some serious action, and now Seth is going to put Ed to the test here with a 3-bet from middle position. 360 is the re-raise here. So he is tripled.
I did.
Almost Ed's initial open, and Ed is going to fold without much surcease. Is that pocket kings? I believe I saw 2 black kings there from Seth.
I don't think you dealt with me that whole day. I was up there. I was there the second day.
That is the confirmation I'm receiving from the folks out front. Pocket kings. So a nice hand to pick up, certainly in middle position, when the under the gun guy decides he's going to make a foray into the pot. Kings are 2 for 2. No, 1 for 2. Excuse me.
They couldn't fade out. They couldn't fade the ace.
Phil was all in with kings earlier on. He was our first elimination. As ace queen of spades bit him with.
And for the viewers out there, that we cannot show whole cards because of state law.
Yes,
it's not our choice.
Yeah,
most of our stops we do show whole cards. On this one in particular, because of Louisiana state law, we cannot show whole cards, but we can still have some fun and try to guess and see what our poker reading abilities are. And I got a tweet from John Holly,
a fellow Florida Gator like myself.
And you know John.
I know John very well.
Neck of the woods. And he said, Seth Foster is the best player you've never heard of. I expect a victory here.
Oh, okay.
So Seth Foster from
He has
Shreveport,
a
Louisiana, has at least one fan following, John Holly.
And now Seth has been re-raised here. Jason Zaturk has made the annual re-raise, $365,000. Seth has $250,000 to put in the pot if he wants to see us live.
Seth's body language is telling me that he's done with this hand.
Yeah, I'm not liking it either.
Maybe not.
Although, never mind that. Well, so much for your reading
Shows
skills.
you what my reading skills are.
All in from Seth. And that is going to be committing all of Jason's chips. And Turk says we're going to put it in here.
Kings again.
Kings again. Back-to-back hands.
And I expect that to be ahead at this moment. I believe that he probably has, I wouldn't be surprised to see Kings versus Ace Queen again. Or pocket tens or
Still
jacks.
waiting for the rollover here on the other side of the table for our cameras. Oh, good
Holy
gracious.
cow. Was I wrong again?
Oh, boy.
We got
And he
the
has
first
both
cooler.
suits covered, and
Suits are
Mr.
covered.
Turk is less than amused. John Holly proving to be quite the prognosticator here. Best player you never heard of, and also getting good cards here.
Black King.
Can Turk pull one out? Not on the flop.
Seth is still in the lead with his pocket aces.
Any chance Turk had of hopefully getting a 4-card straight on the board is gone as well.
Deuce of clubs. Turk's going to need to see
And he is now down to his final 2 outs.
He's going to leave us in 8th place.
And Seth does have
Let's see the river card.
Oh, you got aces and kings the last 2 nights.
The river card is a 7 of hearts.
No help for
takes
Jason or
8th
Turk.
place.
And what an unfortunate,
Turk around the applause, 8th place.
unfortunate situation for Jason Durson.
And that's great news for Gene Cavacetti. He's down to 10 blinds, and also Philip Big Phil. They're both now just made another $1,562 money jump.
Both made about $2,500 since we started play today. And neither of them doing much in terms of winning pots. I think Phil had one win early on, but has dwindled significantly, and Gene has basically just sat in a stack and laddered up reasonably well here. So that gives our dealers some room anyway, as though it's the 1 and 9 seats who have gone down.
And now Seth Foster.
And I know our
best
broadcast
player we never heard of.
Our broadcast crew likes that as well, because they like to be able to get a lot of good camera angles, and having the 1 and 9 seats open allows for that. But Seth, yes, as you were alluding to, takes the chip lead here as he is now over $2 million.
Yeah, Seth Foster, the first person on the final table that cracks the $2 million.
I think it's live. Because there's no hole for it.
And Jonathan's going to raise.
Jonathan once again not backing down here.
Yeah, Jonathan is just staying active.
Button defenders at it again.
Big Phil is going to defend.
$25,000 in a call. And we're going to be heads up to the flop. Let's see the flop.
Check dark.
Big Phil's going to be first back. He checks over to Jonathan. 3 of spades, 4 of hearts.
E4-8 on this
Let's see
flop
if Big
after Phil
is gonna
defend.
do his patented check, raise, all-in move.
Well, he's not going to. If he's going to check raise, he's going to check shove. He's only got about $500,000.
Well, that's
left.
what I meant. I meant check,
Yeah.
raise, all-in.
Exactly. We'll see if Jonathan since he got check raised on before
Jonathan
by
knows
Phil.
this is a very safe flop for him.
He's not going to be shy about firing on the 8-4-3.
Big Phil should not have anything
Oh
of this
goodness!
sort that he's defending with. And is he cutting out?
I can't believe he's cutting out
Yeah,
a call there.
I mean, that's half of his stack. He's checking in the blind.
That was 150,000, by the way, not 15,000 there on the bet.
The board pairs. Now, John is very wary of the fact that Phil just called off pretty much 40% of his stack. So, and he knows he's a tidbit of a crazy player. So he probably figures he's not going to be able to push him off of this one. So I expect him to check back here a lot or put him all in if he does have the hand.
I beat kings twice. Two guys are busted. They both had two kings.
And he's going to put them all in here.
Put 'em all in. He's put 'em
And the
in.
fact that Phil's looking and thinking has me concerned about his situation.
Again, this is a classic example of calling a bet on the flop and you have no idea what you're going to do on the turn. He should have already had his whole hand mapped out, knowing what he's going to do on the turn based on what the turn card is. If it's a heart or an over card, or in this case, a 3, which pairs the board, which has no significant, doesn't change anything in the hand.
I think he should have been thinking even further ahead than that. Once he calls the pre-flop, he's thinking, okay, I'm either getting it all in here or I'm not. I can't see. I can't even see milking at this point.
No, not a chance.
Once the flop comes out.
I'm a big proponent of the defending the big blind and playing, but with his chip stack, he's down with 10 big blinds. You shouldn't even be defending your big blind, especially against, Jonathan, who's pretty much open like 80% of his hands. If you have a hand that you're playing, you might as well just get it all in pre-flop, give yourself a chance to win the pot uncontested, and now. Now he's in a situation where
because you have to be thinking on the flops. Is okay, if I call here, then what am I doing on the turn? And if he makes a bet, am I really going to fold here and be down to what, 7 bigs at this point?
To me, he seems like the guy who has, a 4 maybe, and
or a really bad heart draw, like a 9 high flush draw or something like that,
or something to that sort. Yeah, but no, I think he would have check raised all in with a flush draw on the flop. He doesn't have a flush draw. Most likely he has a 4. He might have had like a pocket deuces or something, and now he's trying to figure out if John has an overpair, or he plain old simply just has like an ace X or just a Broadway and is trying to figure out if John's making a move here.
But even then, if you have an ace X and that board comes down, why aren't you just lead jamming on the flop?
Why aren't you rejamming pre-flop? That's my question.
Yeah, that too.
But then again, we're speaking of experience here, and he's a recreational player. He only has 5 lifetime cashes with a total of 16,000.
And I was just 4 of them were average like what, $500 a piece.
Yeah, he
hit one big one
for $14,000
cash. A very, very long time to be thinking about this hand in this situation.
He's at the point where if he folds now, he only has about 5 big blinds.
Yeah. He is a waiter. He's his occupation.
He put himself in a very tough spot here by calling pre, and then again by
and it's not the first time he's made a very similar play. So, and he is going to let it go. Wow. So he is now down to less than 8 big blinds.
And his biggest cash coming in on the $345 buy-in $1 million heater in Biloxi, Mississippi. He took 9th place for $14,376. And I expect Big Phil to be our 7th place finish. He's put himself in a spot where, he only has 2 rounds. So within the...
Yeah, no, it's not... and he is... don't want to be overly critical of players, obviously, because you don't know what they're going through, and certainly in a situation where we can't see the whole cards.
Exactly.
We don't know what they're thinking and what they're seeing. But he's done most of this to himself. Alan Kessler going to enter this pot from the shotgun.
Are we all in here?
If he's in, is he really going to call?
Oh,
jeez. Jeez. Phil, you're killing us, Phil.
He's praying that he connects with his flop, and he's just going to open jam. He's just going to jam.
But even if he does, Alan Kessler, what is he folding to?
No, he's not.
And
Alan, if Alan has
and
an ace
now he's going to
hand,
check, and Alan's going to look over and see this guy's got $250,000
he's going to
left.
Alan's going to put him in, and he's going to fold.
230, 240.
I mean, I don't know what Alan is thinking about.
He's thinking about how does this guy not already all in if he only has 240,000 behind. And there it is. He'll just put a bunch of blue chips, and Phil is going to turn. Phil is going to call this time. Phil found himself with top set. Oh, good gracious. Oh my goodness. Alan can't help but chuckle.
5 of hearts, 5 of clubs. Alan has a king of spades, jack of spades.
And Alan is drawing dead here, isn't he? Yeah, King Jack suited.
He can chop.
That's true, and I can't, yeah. That'll do it. Alan needed runner straight cards. He got one of them there on the river, but needed that 10 to be a 3.
And that would have ended the same way if had he just shoved pre-flop, which would have been the correct play. But, you know, Alan is not going to fold to a 5 big blind shove with that hand. But it worked out for Phil, and he's back in it. Now he's up to about.
He took the circuitous route to get there, but he got the result he was looking for. Or what is it? The road less traveled, as it would be.
Check raised Alan Kessler all he got
I would imagine Alan will be hitting social media with that in short order.
But like I keep doing this to call if I didn't.
If Alan I mean,
no, I don't want it to.
Again, that Alan had started the hand with about 1.7 million, so it really wasn't a big detrimental, part of his stack. But
certainly the way the hand played out,
the 5s didn't get in pre-flop.
Everybody watches.
And my question is, had the flop come 10-10 queen, what would he have done with those 5s? Or check folded them, or I mean, was he just calling to trap, or? But it worked out. And
he's trapping with a very small net, but he got Alan by the ankle there. Certainly reeled him in. Jonathan continuing to make hay here, up to $1.25 from the hijack.
125,000 is the current.
Jeff is going to defend her 100%. He's very aware that Jonathan is opening his entire range here, so he's deliberately going to. Deliberately? I'm not sure.
Another low board. We've had a lot of these today.
What's your name?
Cocktail.
Cocktails, scotch to Alan Kessler, please.
I'll take another diet of water.
Did we see Jeff check there? Yes, he did.
Yeah, he's going to check this board pretty much.
Having some technical difficulties with our screen there. There we go. Our man is, I'm seeing it hit the buttons, and the buttons are not cooperating, so. Use the sledgehammer technique. Always in favor of the sledgehammer technique. We've now got 4 to a straight on the board.
Yeah, but none of these players have a straight. And this probably is going to go check again. No, Jonathan says I have the best hand.
125,125.
And it would have been real interesting to see if Jonathan, with all the action that he has made here at this final table, if he has had the best hand.
Right.
The majority of these times. And I'm guessing it's probably somewhere around maybe 50-50, 60-40. That he has had the best hand when he's fired, but he certainly has been our least shy player at the table. And Jeff is going to bow down to him here.
I mean, Jonathan can have anything in his range at this point.
Jonathan has no fans here. That's why in the crowd. That's why he continues to applaud himself.
We'll give him a little. I'll applaud him. He's playing pretty well.
Little Monty Python.
Just over 9,100. First place today, almost 60,000. That's the $3,600 championship package and the HPT main event bracelet.
All right, you won. Good job.
Just under 7 minutes left at this level. We're still at a 5,080, 25,000, 50,000 on the blind.
7 more minutes, and then the levels go up, and everybody gets yet shorter. We have
And
only
that
two
is-
players
that is
over
ba- that is-
30 big blinds. Seth Foster,
That is
our
the
chip
worst
leader.
news for Gene.
Raised to 125,000. 125 that folds over. Two big Phil and 4 seat.
Jonathan once again taking command of the action here with the 2.5x raise.
Over to Seth. Seth is going to make the call.
But he has run into the big stack in position on this particular occasion. And Alan Kessler defending out of the big blind. So we have arguably our three best players here at the table going to see this flop. And yes, it is our first three-way action.
My guess
of
is
the
Alan
afternoon.
Kessler will outplay them both.
Dude pissing me off on that button. I know he did.
Alan
I know
checks
he was
the
bluffing.
Queen 8-6.
I knew he was black Mo. I read everything.
That is what I said.
Yeah, Queen 8-6, 2 spades. John is going to
We have one of our pieces of equipment here directly in the way of
And he
my
jammed. When he jammed,
thing
I
on the
knew
monitor,
that.
but that's fine. I can just move my head around.
But I had ace-9.
Jonathan knows what he's up against here. He's up against the big stack at the table, the most experienced player at
If
the
I
table,
got
so
ace, queen,
I wonder
or
if that will
jack,
slow him
I
down a
snap
little
him off and call
Well,
him
John is
bluff.
aware that
I knew
the
he
other
was bluffing.
players are aware of
What's
his
up, man?
tactics that he's been open
I'm
about.
still
And the fact
in.
that he opened under the gun +1, I think his range is
If I had a pair,
fairly strong here.
And we have been checked around.
I'm like, this is be the greatest call on TV ever.
I find it hard to believe that one of these three players does not have a king or a queen in their hand. And Alan is going to take the lead here.
Yeah, the king doesn't scare Alan. He bets out,
Over to Jonathan in the 2 seat.
which
Or he may
is-
have in fact had a king. And
Well,
was-
that's the thing. Alan, Alan could have the way that he plays. For sure, he has a piece of this. I doubt that he's betting out with the spade draw. So he's saying, "I have king." Most likely, he might even have king queen. He was trying to trap Jonathan into c-betting, and he didn't. And now he has to protect his hand. The board is getting quite draw heavy, so.
I'm not sure Jonathan's Hollywoodding this time. I think he may have a real decision on his hands.
I mean, he could have had some type of a middling pair, 9s, 10s, sevens, and he's going to check back a lot of that flop because he is against two players.
He is going to lay this one down, though, and Seth also does not hesitate, and Alan Kessler
is going to outplay them both. Show him the bluff, Alan. Show him the old.
The way Alan kind of slammed that one down, I think he might have had something. Looks a little disappointed that he wasn't able to get more out of that pot. And he just said he was hoping that someone bet the flop. So
is that what he said?
Yeah, so king queen might have been on the money there.
Yeah.
You right.
Yeah, Alan was waiting for somebody to bet that.
Doggy, you can come in there. Is it free?
Alan is very aware of position, so defending his was it his small blind, I believe.
No, it was his big blind.
My girl
big
texted
blind,
me.
yeah.
She's like, I can see you texting
But even
me.
then, Alan defending
They're
his big
saying
blind,
nice things
he
about
does
you.
have a pretty good hand.
She
And
watching that shit
Jonathan
at
is
work.
opening up again.
Everybody texting too. Hey man, stop texting. I'm like, well, stop texting me.
No, he thought about it. And Big
back
Phil
to
is stepped
business.
away from the
He's
table.
still hovering around 1 million chips. I mean, his stack is stayed at about 20 big blinds consistently throughout. Definitely the most active player.
Jeff's going to raise.
Jeff makes a play from the button and a lamented fold from Gene in the big blind. Looked like he had 8 high there.
Good job, Jeff.
Twice you would have gotten a walk from me.
8-3 and 7.
2 minutes left at the session.
My hand today.
And it's got to be extraordinarily disappointing thus far for Gene, who's, as we said, not had a whole lot of tournament experience, and here he is making a final table here in an HPT main event. And he did come in as one of the short stacks, and has apparently just gotten absolutely nothing. I don't think we've even seen a shove out of him yet to try and
But
try and boost his stack and get himself at least a couple more orbits in this tournament. But
what are you talking about?
Gene, the 8th seed.
Gene busted.
No, Gene did not. Gene is in the 8th seed. We had Jason bust in the 1 seed and Philip bust in the 9 seed. Yeah, Jason's on Alan's left. Or Gene's, excuse me, on Alan's left. And here we go. Speak of the devil, Gene has made a move from the small blind, 3-bet shoving on Jeff's raise, and Jeff is going to call here with pocket 7s.
You were really patient for that hand.
Gene has decided to put his tournament risk against pocket jacks for Gene this time. So Gene, a very heavy favorite, and again, in a pair versus pair matchup, the high pair has both suits covered. Gene with less than 7 big blinds here. A much needed double up for him, obviously, if he can hold. And a very nice board for Gene to this point. There are running straight outs possible, but Jeff is still looking for one of the 2 7s and does not get any help there. So the old 95-5 2-out situation. It was close, but it's an 8, not a 7. And so Gene is going to get a little bit healthier here.
A little bit of breathing room.
And he's going to be about 16, 17 bigs at this point.
About 850,000, I think, by my calculations, which is about 17 bigs.
Oh, probably some family, I would assume.
Gene is one of our 2 out-of-area players from Maryland. What is that?
Maryland Heights, Ohio.
Yes.
This is a gentleman that has had 1 tournament lifetime cash, and it was in this event, the first event of the HPT opening event here in New Orleans, the $365 buy-in, and he cashed for $978. And now he's guaranteed $9,000, almost 10 times more than his lifetime earnings.
And he's going to quit his job as a general contractor and devote his life to becoming a professional poker player. No, not seriously. He has not said that. Any of his friends and family listening back home in Ohio. But you see that a lot, obviously. Someone gets a taste and is able to hit a couple big scores early in their career, and it was like, oh, this is easy. And they're not aware of the grind that it takes.
It used to be easy.
Yeah.
Not easy anymore.
Nope. There's a reason that the best players are the best players. If it was easy, everyone could do it, and that's the case certainly in all professional competitive environments.
Big Phil is getting a lot of love on the Twitter chat, or the Twitch chat. We're getting some props from some players saying, HPT, hope you come back to New Orleans soon. I had a great time.
All right, we had the last hand of the level there as Jonathan makes one final stab at the 25-50 level. And we are now moving up significantly. This is a big jump.
30-60.
Not so much the 30-60 blinds, but the ante moving up from 5,000 to 10,000.
Yeah, that's huge.
10-30-60
it's costing 170,000 each orbit. So every 8 hands.
160 actually, because we're down to 7 players. But yeah.
Oh, that's right. We just lost a player. I didn't update my number here. We're down to 7. And
so again, you're looking to say that's 5 orbits is 800K. So that's
right, 860,000.
Serious money.
And average stack is 1.17. So you're pretty much losing 10% of your stack every 8 hands.
We see Seth there on our graphic with a sizable lead at this point of over 1 million chips.
10,000, 30,000, 60,000. Go ahead and deal.
We'd like to welcome all those of you once again to our live stream here on Twitch of the HPT final table of our main event from Boomtown, New Orleans. Dominic Siebert here, along with Nick Jivka.
And Ed is getting quite short. I have Ed at about 450 to 500,000. So he's below 10 bigs. He's in the red zone.
We had 275 players enter this main event. Some of them more than once.
I went from 50% just like one.
And we have a first place prize today,
You two need your
including
own reality
our Tournament of Champions package.
show. I said you two need your own reality show. You
All told, over $63,000.
Oh, he's terrible at the
Once
button
again, very
thing.
pleased with our turnout that we received. We had a 100K guarantee event to open up this series, which we smashed very hard, almost in the first 2 days, as I recall.
What?
And we had 2 players chop first place there for $22,000 apiece, and to be able to put out a $60,000 first place prize here for our first trip in what is a rather small space. I will say that we only use a total of about, I think, 15 tables. For
We see a lot of defense from the short stacks on this table. Big Phil is defending his blinds. Ed Sebasta.
Although we actually had a rare limp from Jonathan on the button for this hand.
Well, he's aware that Ed and Big Phil are defending their
exactly.
blinds, so he's going to want to see a lot of pots in position with a lot of mediocre type of hands, middling connectors. He feels that.
And a check shove here from Ed, and Phil's like, "What the heck, man? You're my buddy in the blinds here."
We're family.
He says we're family. Can't you tell the resemblance? They both have glasses. That's about it, I think.
Ooh. Only to you, Ed.
And it's a healthy check shove, too, for Ed, as Phil only led for the minimum. And it was about a 8x check shove.
And that's a huge
by Ed
pickup.
there.
Huge pickup for Ed.
Absolutely.
He was dwindling down to about 7 big blinds, and now he's going to have about 700,000, which is going to put him just over the 10 big blind.
And as we said, Ed's going for looking to move to the express lane.
Our gentleman from Sugarland, Texas.
Because he's
the only
he
other.
said he was donating his winnings today to. I'm not sure if this is his church back home, but it is a church back home, the Congregation of the Holy Cross. So, very noble gesture.
God is certainly in his corner.
Yes, as I said, moving to the express lane. Give him the golden ticket. Not that we're
that's a different animal
certainly hoping for Ed's demise anytime soon. We want to see Ed back at many, many poker tournaments. Here with the HPT and elsewhere. And he obviously has played very well in this event. Retired for a gentleman from Iowa, born in Iowa Colony, Texas. Has moved now to Richmond, and I'm sure has plenty of his family watching our broadcast today. It's played very well throughout this event. And another limped pot here between the blinds. And Phil is going to check call a barely above minimum bet of 80,000 on this, again, low board. We haven't had a lot of...
we haven't seen a lot of face card boards.
A lot
of low connected boards with a lot of double paired in the turn.
We would be seeing a lot more action if this were a no-limit 08 game with the kind of boards that we've received here today. It's a $135, and this time Phil says, "Okay, I believe you on the second barrel." And the chip lead increases for Mr. Foster.
Two spades. Another 2.
And so far, Seth Foster, as predicted by John Holly, is in the lead. And maybe John's prediction will come true. It's surely
John, a
his
poker
tournament
player
to lose right now.
from Florida, tweeted us very early on that Seth was the best player you've never heard of, and it was his pick to win this final table.
My friend Jody Foster from Texas tweeted that about me in 2012. He said Nick Jivko is the best player you've never heard of, and I thought it was quite comical. And then I won my first bracelet that year. I said, maybe Maybe there's some truth to that.
Never hurts to have other people believing in you, that's for sure. And it's been a good 3 to 4 hands since we've seen Jonathan open a pot, so he's got to get back into.
Yeah, he did
here.
limp the last hand, so
Yeah.
he's due for an opening raise here.
160.
160,000.
It's a $160
160 is the raise by
from
Jonathan.
Jonathan.
We're to head to 3C.
Out of the hijack. He's been especially active from the last 3 positions. Hijack cut off the button today.
You jump for the big blind, he's going to fold.
And it'll be raise and take it for Jonathan on this one.
I would probably be making it a little bit smaller if I was Jonathan. It would accomplish the same thing. He's opening pretty close to 3x, and you know, a lot of the 2 stacks behind him, both Ed and Big Phil, are sitting there with 12 or 13 big blinds, and if he's planning on opening and folding to their all-in shoves, you know, why not save yourself the extra 40,000 chips? Just probably min raise it, like open it at 120 or 130, and if they do ship, you can just save some chips. It's gonna accomplish the same thing.
I've seen lately, probably in the last less than the last year, a little bit of a shift. I don't know if it's an evolutionary thing, you know, where things are going back and forth in terms.
We have gotten to the point. It used to be 3x, then down to 2.5, and down to 2x, and back to 2.5, and now we're moving towards again the bigger opening, bigger pot size bets, and over pot. You know, definitely poker dynamic is changing a little bit.
Yeah, because it used to be the point where, you know, people would raise like 2.01x max, and then if someone 3-bet, it'd be similar, and then the big blind's looking down at a decent hand, like say a Jack 10 suited or something like that, and it's thinking, well, geez, I've been raised and re-raised, but it's only going to cost me 3 more bigs to make the call, basically, and see a hand, and that would lead to some of those pre-flop raisers getting hoisted by their own petard, if you will.
Poker certainly is getting harder, and Ed on the 3C just opened to 150K, and
Seth
our
has
chip
put out
leader,
a
Seth,
pile.
He's technically putting him in. He's trying to tell these guys, get out of my pot.
A
I
full
want him
barrel
heads
of
up.
blue there. That's a $500,000. And that's saying, Ed, okay, you're committing all your chips here, or you're going away. And Ed is definitely thinking about it, but
he
knows
look very
he's been put
confident.
to the test. Yeah. It'd have been in a lot quicker, obviously, if he had a
he
top
probably
5
has
hand.
some type of a middle pair, or maybe ace jack, ace 10 type of a hand. I suspect if he had ace king, ace queen, he would have called by now. Any pair over nines, yeah, I'd probably say not nines. It's probably. I mean, if I'm in Ed's spot sitting there with like ace jack or ace 10, you know, I'd hate my life right now.
A little bit of nervous shifting there with the chips in the hands.
Yeah, it doesn't look to me that he's going to go for it. He is not the shortest stack. I mean, actually, he is.
He might be kind of close.
No,
he and Gene are pretty close.
Although
Phil's the short stack.
Big Phil is
the
the short stack right now. He's sitting probably around 450,000, which puts him just about 8 big blinds. But then again, Big Phil is very unpredictable. And that's the thing with this final table. The stacks are so even that if Big Phil happens to double up 2 times, he'd be second in chips.
Sure.
And, you know, a lot of these players are aware of that fact, that, you know, all they need is 2 double ups and they can go from outhouse to the penthouse.
Or at least upper middle class house anyway, at this point.
And this is live, guys. This is there's no delay here. We do not have whole cards because of state law. And we are live. We see the action.
That's why we were able to be live, because we don't have
right,
we don't have the whole cards
and we
here.
are fairly close to the final table. We can hear them. I'm sure they can. If we spoke very loud, they could probably hear us.
So it's a little bit of a unique situation here for this broadcast, especially in the modern era of poker coverage.
And I just realized that when they're in an active hand, we have to whisper. We don't want to speak too loud.
Yes,
it's
a modicum of golf coverage. And Gene, a little bit bummed there as he finally had a hand. He had pocket eights in the big blind and got no action. Even Alan Kessler getting even a walk.
Didn't open. One of the few times he didn't open the pot.
Well, Jonathan is on the gun in that situation with that setup. So he's been a little bit more timid in earlier positions, but certainly when the button's been anywhere near him, he's been the friskiest player we've had so far, for sure.
And we have slowly been gaining viewership here on the Twitch channel. We're up to 257
very nice,
viewers.
Very nice. Thank you for all tuning in.
Thank you guys for joining us, having some fun. Tweet to all your friends, have them come. Let's join the party. Let's keep on growing the viewership. And
he is Nick Jivkov. You can see him at Nick Jivkov. I'm Dominic Siebert, Dom JSII. For those of you wondering, yes, I am one of the supervisors.
Yes, if
on
you
the
guys
HPT.
are not familiar, Dominic Siebert is one of the supervisors. If you do play HPTs quite often, you'll be very familiar. You might not know his name, but you for sure know his face. He's the slim, tall gentleman, good-looking guy.
That's
walking around.
The good-looking is what I've gotten the most, actually. So as soon as you say that, everyone will know exactly who I am. And the most humble, of course. Jonathan not going to let Gene limp on his big blind there and splash that one pretty hard and collected the small blind and the antes. Give a shout out to our dealers as well. That's Dustin in the box right now. We had Fred earlier on.
And we have a very interesting dynamic here on the final table. If you look at the chip stacks, we have Seth Foster, who's way ahead of everybody with 45 big blinds. Then we have 3 gentlemen who are in the 20 big blind range and 3 gentlemen who are in the 10 big blind range.
Yeah.
So ICM consideration is
sort of
very...
It's sort of like the Tour de France right now. We've got one guy way out in front, and then we've got a pack, and then a second pack behind.
Right. So ICM consideration right now is very important. Now the money jumps are getting significant. The next money jump is $1,800 when you go from 7th or from 8th to 7th.
Or from 7th to 6th. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, where are we at?
We're at 7 right now. So
yeah. So we have a 15. Right?
So
$1,500 money jump.
Ed has shoved.
And yeah, Ed has decided that he needs to make a move here. He's down to 12 big blinds.
He is in the big blind, and he is shoved on Gene's button raise, and Gene kind of chuckling to himself.
Has a,
I finally have a hand that I make a button raise with, and I get jammed on. And so that's a 3x raise, or roughly a 2.5x raise. It looks like it was either 150 or 175 for Gene. I think that's either the first or second time we've seen him open all final table, and he gets jammed on and is forced to lay it down.
And I think we're going to see a lot of this going on right now. A lot of these guys, the short stacks are going to be playing against each other. The middle stacks are going to tighten up. Alan, Jeff, and Jonathan, who are all sitting with around 20 big blinds. Neither of them want to bust before any of the other 3 guys, who some of them are down to less than 10 big blinds. We got Gene is around 10 bigs, Big Phil is around 8 bigs, and then Ed is around 12 to 13 bigs. So I expect to see Alan, Jeff, and John to kind of sit back a little bit. Seth Foster has the chip lead. He could put some pressure here. That would be a good time for him to start putting up some pressure. So let's see if he does that. Or
if you're Seth, do you obviously want to go with the small stacks? You want to go at any of the mid stacks right now?
No, Seth doesn't want to mess around with the small stacks. He's going to be forced to call off their all-ins, but he should definitely be putting pressure on some of the middling stacks. You know, I mean, you got Jeff and Alan are both close to 1.3 million, and then you got 3 guys that are less than 800,000. So if he puts pressure on these 2 guys, or even Jonathan, they're going to need a premium hand to play back.
I think we just had Ed make a mistake there. I think he attempted to call out of turn from the small blind, and Jonathan hadn't acted yet, and Jonathan has decided to shove.
Well,
to put pressure on the
Jonathan
big blind
has
there is Phil.
2 small stacks behind him. Both Ed and Phil are sitting there with around 10 big blinds. So if he has anything decent from the button, any Broadway cards, any ace, any pair, even sometimes even any suitor middling cards like a 9-10 suitor, it's proper ICM, so you can just get it in there.
But his shove did allow Ed to take back the 30,000 that he used to limp with out of turn.
Yeah, I don't think that was a significant factor in his decision to go all in.
No,
he was going to go all anyway. Now, had Ed tried to raise out of position, that now would have been a deciding factor if Jonathan was going to open the button or not.
And Gene is all of a sudden getting some hands here after about 3 or 4 orbits of nothing. And he's going to make his second raise here, I believe, in 3 hands. And Jonathan says, "Oh, you're in a pot finally with me. What am I? Let me see what you got over there, chip-wise." Before laying it down, and now Ed, who shoved on Gene's last raise, is going to do so again here. This time on the button.
And I think this time we might. Alright, let's see a call.
Yes, we are. Gene is going to put them all in this time.
Hey, we got ace queen, is it? Or ace king?
Ace 10 versus ace queen.
He moves all in, and Gene did make the call.
I think it's ace 10 of clubs.
I like open shipping ace 10. I don't like coming over the top, especially after Gene has been playing very snug. Gene has been playing very snug. I don't like that ace 10 all in.
85,585. That has a little bit more. So Gene's is that risk here?
Gene is our all-in player, but he is in the lead, looking to avoid clubs and 10s at this point.
10 of diamonds, Jack of hearts, ace of spades.
Oh, goodness.
Wow.
Well, this is a good thing. This is a final table TV hand for sure.
Gene has
kings
or queens. He's got 2 kings.
Gene flops top pair, but is behind to Ed's 2 pair.
Or Jack's is
and a full house for Ed on the turn.
And
10s full of aces, and now we're looking at an ace to chop for Gene.
There's 1 ace left in the deck. Ace of diamonds. Can the miracle ace of diamonds come out?
Ace of diamonds is a chop. If it was an ace. No, okay, you're right.
Looks like Gene is going to be our
See the river card?
I was thinking.
7th place finisher here.
8 of spades.
8 of spades on the
That's
end.
unfortunate.
And
He got it in.
Yeah, I mean, I had talked earlier. Yeah, I had talked earlier about how frustrating it's had to have been for Gene to be able to make this final table and not getting any hands early, and then he had a few hands late, didn't get action on 1, did double up 1 time, but then get shipped on by Ed twice, and the second time he does call it down with the best hand, and then sees 2 10s hit the board. And he is our 7th place finisher today, but still
over 1.2, about 1.4 million in chips.
We've got him actually close to 1.5. Yeah, he and Alan Kessler, or excuse me, he and Jonathan are very close to one another at this point. But
so now we have 4 stacks that are all in the 20 big blind range, and the sole little stack, Big Phil Trudeau, at about less than 500,000. Lines are 10,000, 30,000, 60,000.
It's certainly a tough final table for Gene Cavacecchi, who finishes in 7th place here today. Although a very nice series for him, as we said, he cashed earlier in our 100K guarantee event, and now finishes with a 7th place finish in the final table for just under 10K. And we have now reached 5-figure payouts for all of our players here today. Just under 11,000 for 6th place, all the way up to 63,000 for our 1st place finisher.
And some props to the dealer. We have a comment from the Twitch chat. Pat Stapp says this dealer in the box is one of the better dealers on the HPT circuit.
Dustin has been with us for many years, has traveled multiple circuits, and we're very happy to have him here working our final table.
And these dealers do a great job. It's a hard work out there, and they're all doing a great job, so we have to give them all
Just
a
imagine
hand.
they have to deal with poker players all the time.
I know, all ego-driven.
People like you, Nick, of all.
People like me, I'm nasty to the
You're
dealers.
the worst now, of course.
I always blame the dealers when something goes wrong.
And right.
It's not my bad play. It's the
Oh,
dealer.
no. If he
didn't cut the cards the way he did, I
right.
would not lose that hand.
It's the same thing as being on the golf course. You know, you throw your club, you throw the balls, you throw your bag, you drive your golf cart into the lake. You know, it's never the fault of your crappy swing. Seth is going to match Jonathan in position here with 155,000 pre-flop. And now the blinds. Oh, we have a re-raise all in from Jeff in the small blind for about $750,000. And Alan quickly gets out of the way, and we're going to get a precise count here for Jonathan's purposes.
Oh, no.
It's 5, 6, 740 is the precise total on the all-in. So Jonathan's now looking at having to give up more than half of his stack in this pot if he wants to make this call. And he has the big stack at the table behind him.
Yeah, he's counting out the call, but
Seeing what he has left for sure.
Yeah.
Because again, he knows that there could very easily be further action in this hand
right.
if he's putting any more chips in.
He's aware that the other players perceive him as having a wide opening range, and that might be playing into his thinking process right now, knowing that Jeff knows that. And how wide is he reshoving? You know, does he have the type of hand that is dominating him? My guess is that he doesn't. He would have probably made the call by now.
Jeff hasn't gotten too out of line thus far today either. With anything.
Exactly. Yeah. He's been pretty straightforward. He hasn't been making any moves. So that should be playing into Jonathan's thinking process right now. And he's most likely Jeff, as that, you know, he probably has one of the hands that is at the top of his range. So I expect a fold here.
Of course, we have seen Jonathan do a little bit of Hollywooding before. How much do you want to do that when you've got a big stack behind you?
Well, that sure plays into his thinking process that he does have a big stack behind. But even if he didn't, if he was to, call off and lose here, he'd go technically from tied in second place in chips to one of the short stacks. And with Phil having only 8 big blinds left, that's ICM suicide. You don't want to be making that move right now. I mean, Phil is on his way out. The next money jump is $1,800. You know, nothing to shake a stick at. That's a lot of money. So, and it could just be Hollywooding, just saving some face. You know, he is opening super wide. You know, he doesn't want players to get the idea that they can easily come over the top of him and make any moves.
Seth does not hesitate to make the call, and it's going to be a race here, it looks like. I think it's the 8s versus ace-queen. Kind of a quick call, I think, from Seth a little bit. I know you had a lot of time to think about it, but pocket 8s in this situation is a big stack. Do you want to be doubling up the player to your left like that?
You're backing off.
He's a chip leader. He.
It's not recorded. Nobody knows what you.
I mean, 8s. You're flipping at best. You're never really dominating.
Oh, but that's a pretty good flop for 8s.
He's going to take a commanding lead of this final table.
It is runner now for Jeff.
Yeah, Jeff has less than 2% chance. He needs a straight. Runner straight. Can we have a sweat? And
nope, a full house for Seth, and he is going to become a monster chip leader. A useless queen there for Jeff on the end. Jeff Sager Our sixth place finisher here today, taking home just under 11,000 in chips. Local boy makes good, born in Slidell, lives now in New Orleans, and had a
I don't know. You stick it in, I might be like,
few fans here today. I believe that was his wife actually back there, Morgan.
It's interesting. Jeff started the day in seat 6, and he takes 6th place.
There you go. Sometimes the numbers work out like that. And we are very quickly down to 5 players here, as we kind of expected that, but I don't know. It maybe took a little bit longer, I think, than we thought.
Yeah, I think it's
with
going.
everyone as even as they were, but it's been more evenly spaced out, I think, and it hasn't been the shove fest, I think, that we might have been anticipating.
Right.
But with a lot of inexperienced players making, in a lot of cases, their first final table here in the HPT. Again, not wanting to make any huge mistakes and give away an opportunity here at 60,000 in a payday. Certainly understandable. And we're looking at Seth now with almost a triple lead, triple the chip stacks of everyone else at the table.
So he should be what, at about 3.5 maybe?
I'm looking at about 4.5 actually. I think that's what I just saw on the screen.
3.
We are playing with 40-minute blinds here. This was an $1,100 buy-in event, so
I don't think he's quite at 4.5, but he's probably close to 4.
$1,100 main events are 40-minute blinds throughout the entire field. We have a lot of our HPT main event throughout the entire tournament. A lot of our HPT main events move to hour blinds after the first day, but this one stays 40 minutes throughout.
And we do have a break coming up in 10 minutes, so that means the blinds are yet again going to go up.
2.5, 3. Yeah, it looks
putting
like
more pressure on Phil.
It looks like closer to about 3.8 million for Seth, who is open here for 140K. And he is going to take this pot down with that raise.
Started with 275 players down to our final 5. 5th place today is going to receive just over 13,500. 4th place today, just over 18,000.
And Ryan on the chat says that nice to see most of the players are not scared to play without hats, sunglasses, and mouth covering, which I didn't notice. That yeah, nobody was except one.
Yeah.
Jeff is wearing a hat. Jonathan, I'm sorry, is wearing a hat and glasses. But
glasses. We're also seeing something we usually don't see at final tables anymore: people using electronic devices with their phones and earbuds plugged in. A lot of that's been removed. But again, with a live broadcast. And with no hole cards available because of Louisiana state gaming regulations, players are allowed to use those at a final table. I think Alan Kessler is a little bit chagrined now at Seth's good fortune to this point in the way he's been able to build up such a substantial chip lead, and he knows he's got a big mountain to climb, as do all 4 of these remaining contenders. Trying to take down Seth Foster's monster chip stack. He's got almost half the chips in play right now.
He has more than half the chips. He's got about 55% of the chips in play. And
if that 4.5 is, I'm not entirely sure that's.
Yeah, I think it's a little less. I think it's probably like.
I think it's
by my calculations.
A little closer to 4 than 4.5.
So let's just
we'll get a full chip count, precise chip count when they go on break here in a few minutes. We may be on the verge of bringing the 100Ks into play here now that we've got a couple of people with several barrels of gray, particularly Seth, obviously. I think he's got about 2 full racks of gray as part of his pyramid stack there. Blinds are 30 and 60,000 with a 10,000 chip ante as we play this HPT final table here from Boomtown Casino in New Orleans.
150. Alan's going to be first back here. He's going to raise to 150,000.
Alan Kessler, I believe this is his first under the gun raise. Of course, I was obviously going to get more and more likely as the table dwindles down, and Alan is going to take this one. As we said, Alan Kessler, by far the most experienced final table player that we had here today. And the most experienced tournament player by a wide, wide margin. I believe his, why do we have Corey on the screen there? One of our executive crew members here unnecessarily photobombed, I think, just for laughs here in the control room.
Yes.
I was saying, as I was doing the math earlier, I think Alan Kessler has...
He's about a 1.3 million.
I think he has about 7 times the amount of tournament earnings as all the other final table players combined.
Yeah, all the other players combined have a sum total of 59 earnings, and Alan Kessler has
looking at the cash money. Alan's made over almost 3.5, right?
3.3, yeah.
3.3, and I think everybody else combined somewhere around 400, 500,000.
Yeah, Alan's got 4.5 times more earnings than the other table, the entire table combined, in cashes and in earnings. So let's see if this is the lucky one for Alan to take first place and to be an HPT, the newest HPT champion, the first New Orleans HPT champions in history. This is the first inaugural HPT event down here in New Orleans. We had a lot of fun. 275 entries to start. Very respectable turnout. Total prize pool of $264,000. And we're playing for first place prize of $59,891 plus the $3,600.
And we could be down to 4th place here shortly. Big Phil has moved all in for his last $190,000.
Yeah, Big Phil blinded himself down to 2 big blinds.
And you've got Alan Kessler and Jonathan Hart both looking at it very strong way. I think there'll be a call from somebody.
Are going to call. He only has 2 big blinds. Alan, yeah, I expect a call from both the small and the big blind, unless Jonathan wants to isolate here and throws in a raise. But I don't know if he will.
It's actually 170,000 on the all-in for Big Phil here.
Yeah, we're gonna have a three-way flop here, and Big Phil is in danger for his tournament life.
And again, you're talking, as we said earlier, with probably the 2 most experienced players here with Jonathan and Alan.
Right.
If Phil's hoping for a situation where one might bet the other off his hand and get him down to heads up, that's not very likely to happen, I don't think. And we do get the call from Jonathan. We are going to have 3 players in this hand with a side pot between Jonathan and Alan. And Phil is got his fingers and perhaps his toes and his legs crossed.
Let's see if he can flop another set and triple up.
Alan has not hesitated in checking here on the board.
Yeah,
Jack 4-8.
Neither of these 2 players are going to get out of hand. They both jump up 1,800 in prize money with another player.
Well, Alan's going to put something here with the flush draw hitting. 200K on the side from Chainsaw.
Yeah, Alan either just got there or he may have a straight with. And I don't think Alan is just betting a flush draw.
No, I've someone who's dealt to and supervised many tournaments that Alan Kessler have been in. I know he is one who would very easily criticize a player for betting into a dry side pot in this kind of situation, particularly on a final table when you've got laddering up possibilities. So I would, if I were Jonathan, and I'm sure Jonathan knows that he would be thinking long and hard about making a call here with
Alan
unless he has
can have a
something
baby
serious.
flush and he doesn't want to give a free card to Alan to draw, or he can have a straight or 2 pair.
And there is the laydown. Are we looking at a set of 9s there for Alan Kessler? Is that what I saw? Or does he have the straight?
Yeah, I thought he might have the straight. He doesn't want to give a free card for the flush.
Yeah, so straight for Alan Kessler here.
It looks like Big Phil.
Phil with a useless 2 pair on the end.
He made 2 pair.
A useless 2 pair on the end because Alan Kessler turned the straight And Big Phil, considering a little bit of recklessness on his part, I think he'll be very, very happy to finish in 5th place and take home $13,000. We said that's his. He had only $16,000 in career earnings, and one of those was a $14K finish. So
he
that's
just under his career
second
high,
highest career cash, and he's almost doubled his lifetime earnings. So the waiter here from New Orleans, with a very nice showing in our main event, finishing in 5th place, excuse me. And you look at these 4 players who we have left. We have Jonathan, as we said, very experienced player, former HPT final table participant. Alan Kessler, we've mentioned his success over and over. We got the big vote of confidence from Seth Foster earlier
Jonathan,
on,
Seth
and Ed Sebesta was our chip leader coming into the day. So this is not a surprising final quartet.
No,
certainly.
Alan, Seth, and Jonathan are the top career money earners that came into this final table, and they're the 3 out of the 4 left. That's not surprising. You know, they're all playing pretty well, and you know, I don't want to criticizing Big Phil too much, but he came in as the second chip stack and made a couple of moves early, which I think he shouldn't have. I think he should have stayed back and relaxed a little bit, and he put himself in a very tough spot where he became the short stack and handcuffed himself into the point where you know, he got very lucky on an ill-timed bluff. He would have been, I believe, either our 9th or 8th place finisher.
I think it would have been 8th, yeah.
8th, and when he made that bluff on a King 6-6 board with 9-8, and you know, got called by Queen 10 and ended up rivering a straight. So having that into consideration, he is very happy with a 5th place finish. I mean, the difference between 5th place and 8th place is $7,000.
Almost doubling your money, pretty much.
Right.
So obviously now the M factor gets very, very big four-handed. And we have a similar situation that we talked about earlier with one guy way out in front and 3 guys kind of clumped together, almost identical chip stacks.
Now we have the scenario where Jonathan Hart and Ed Sebesta are both sitting with around 22 big blinds.
A check shove here from Ed. He's done this once before.
Very excited.
And yeah, Ed has had a few occasions where he's taken his time, and then the rest of the time pretty much he's acted very decisively and promptly. And I think players have learned to respect that over the course of these 2 hours that we've played at this final table so far.
I didn't like that, Ed.
You've been doing your share.
And last hand of the level, guys.
Last hand of the level, and last hand before our first break of the day.
And then we're coming back at 10,000 antes, small blind 40,000, big blind 60. I'm sorry, 40,000, 80,000.
Yes.
Right. And that will put John and Ed both below 20 big blinds.
And even four-handed, Jonathan is still not slowing down at all.
Well, he's at the point now. He knows that he needs to pick up the aggression, and he needs to double up basically. We got Seth Foster up ahead with 50 bigs, Alan Kessler with 30 bigs, and him and Ed are down to 16 bigs. Or actually, Ed just doubled, or he just picked up a pot. So Jonathan is the short stack now.
All right, we're going to take a little bit of a break here, about 15 minutes or so, off of our coverage here on the live stream. Dominic Siebert again here with Nick Jivkov. And overall, what do you think you've liked and disliked so far for the first 2 hours of play that we've had here?
I think the play went pretty standard of what I expected. I expected it, to pretty much go a little faster, but I haven't seen anything too out of hand other than some of the plays that we discussed about that Big Phil made. Jonathan stayed pretty active. Alan Kessler is playing well. He's sitting there waiting for perfect spots, so he hasn't made any mistakes. Seth Foster has played very well. We had a couple of coolers, and I think overall a very fun final table. Sorry, guys, that we can't see the whole cards.
But
That's
that makes it
state
even
law,
more fun.
But it makes it more fun. We have to test our reading abilities. I've been correct on most of them, except a couple of faux pas. But other than that, you know, I think we're in for a good four-handed match coming up. Now we have some play. Once one more player gets eliminated, we're going to have an average stack of about 30, 32 big blinds. And then we'll see. Then we will see some play. We'll see some pots. We'll see some flops, and it's not going to be a lot of all-in. The last maybe 5 minutes or so, or the last, let's say, half of the level, we had 3 stacks that were below 10 bigs. So there was a lot of ICM considerations and the bigger stacks being aware that if they open up, they have to call off the 10 big blind stacks. So that has changed now. We have Jonathan sitting with 14 bigs at the new blind levels at 40-80 when we come back. I have Ed coming back with 20 bigs, and then we have Seth and Alan in first and second position. So let's see what happens.
And we will resume the action here in about 10, 15 minutes, so about 2:40. We'll be looking to come back here. Stay with us here on Twitch with the Heartland Poker Tour. And welcome back to the HPT final table here at Boomtown, New Orleans. Our first trip down here to the Bayou with the Heartland Poker Tour. This is the main event final table of our $1,100 main event buy-in. Dominic Siebert here with Nick Jivkov. And we are down to 4 players left contesting for our first place prize of $63,000. We have Jonathan Hart, Alan Chainsaw Kessler, Ed Sebesta, and Seth Foster. Seth Foster is our decided chip leader right now. He has 3.68 million chips. Ed Sebesta with 1.47 million, Jonathan Hart 1.44 million, and Alan Kessler 1.655 million at the moment. And we are going to be coloring up some chips here momentarily. We're going to bring the 100Ks into play for the very first time. They are sort of whitish, tannish kind of color. I don't think they're going to clash too much with the grays. But we will be passing those out shortly and getting ready to resume play here. Our blinds are going to be 40 and 80,000 with a 10,000 ante from all players. And Nick, we're in that situation we were talking about a little bit earlier with one guy, Seth Foster, once again way out in front, and the rest of the guys back in the pack, sort of like the Tour de France.
Yeah,
trying to catch up to him.
Seth is sitting there with about 45% of the chips in play. He's got 46 bigs at 3.6 million. Right behind him is Alan Kessler with 21 bigs, and then both Jonathan and Ed have almost similar stacks, 1.44 to 1.47. So money jumps are quite significant now. We're looking at 4th place at 18,000, 3rd place 25,000, $7,000 jump. 38,000 for 2nd and 59,000, a little short of 60,000 for 1st. ICM consideration, Alan, John, and Ed have to play against each other and stay away from Seth. Nobody wants to bust 4th, but I expect Jonathan to keep the aggression. He's been the most active player throughout the whole final table.
By far.
Yeah, by far. I don't see anything changing. Nobody's playing back at him. Ed Sebesta, the most inexperienced player left of the group with a total life earnings of 13,000. He's donating all of his winnings to his church. That's very respectable. So I expect him to sit back and, wait for some decent hands. And, Seth, though, he's a good player. According to John Halley, who tweeted us earlier, he said he's the best unknown player in this final table, and he expects him to win first. He will be aware that Jonathan Hart, is pretty aggressive, so I expect him to put some pressure on him. So it'll be interesting to see how the dynamic changes now that, the 3 bottom stacks have pretty much equaled out, and we have one guy up ahead who has double the stack of everybody else at this table.
More than double, in fact, yeah. Jonathan coming to us from Jackson, Mississippi. Ed Sebesto, one of our 2 Texans left in the field. Ed and Seth, both from Texas. And, of course, Alan Kessler now residing in Las Vegas, where he abuses video poker machines and slot machines to their utmost.
So Seth is from Texas. I have him down as Shreveport, Louisiana.
Oh, okay, well, I have here we got DeBerry, Texas, is what he wrote on his sheet right here.
He must have moved. So
he's from Louisiana Fields, and they say that he's Seth, that he's the best player we've never heard of, but he says his plans for his prize money is he's going to gamble it, so he's no stranger to the casino life, apparently.
Maybe that's why John Halley wants him to win.
Maybe.
I don't know what's going on there.
John's got a PLO game he's setting up or something.
The Super Bowl yesterday did disappoint a lot of players. And we're back in the action.
And this time it's Seth actually making the pre-flop raise. We actually haven't seen Seth doing a whole lot of... he's obviously going to have to step up his game four-handed with that respect, but he's been doing a lot of...
Seth is going to pick up the aggression now, considering that none of the other guys want to bust in 4th. They're all even in stacks. So, it wouldn't surprise me if he takes the place of Jonathan now and starts opening up very wide and just... At least he's going to test it out and see if anybody's going to play back at him.
Yeah, I think in terms of aggression, obviously, if you're going to rank these players from most to least, Jonathan would definitely be up top. I think Seth is going to move into that number 2 spot, and Alan might be third, I think, actually, in this case because of his experience. He knows that when you get down shorthanded, you got to play a little bit more. And I think Ed, obviously, being a little by far the newbiest of the players here.
Yeah, I think everybody gives Alan Kessler a lot of flack about being like a super tight player, but he is a smart player. He's not, he's not dumb by any means. He does have 263,000 career cashes with a total of 3.3 million, and he is aware that shorthanded you should open up your game a lot. So, I don't expect him to just sit back and blind down. I'd be very surprised if he does that. Ed, on the other hand, I would expect if he's a little more timid. But then again, he has shown some, check raising, a couple of all-ins.
Alan has continued after making a pre-flop raise here to 200K, leading out for $250,000 against Ed's big blind, and Ed's going to give it up on that flop. Queen Jack 3, and Alan showed at least one ace there. Might have been two. And he had them both, yep.
Alan Kessler with aces. Shocking.
Who would have imagined? Yeah, he's actually he's had been lamenting that his aces have been getting busted a lot, and then we reached this main event. I want to say, if I was reading the blogs right, there were at least 2 or 3 cases where he had pocket aces, was all in for his tournament life in a multi-way situation. And one of the players didn't call his pre-flop all-in, and if they had called, they would have busted him. Like 2 or 3 times. I want to say it was like with sevens once, the sevens would have made a straight, and I think the other time it was another small pocket pair that would have flopped a set. So Alan certainly has gotten some unusual good fortune, at least if you listen to him.
Well, anytime you make it down to 4 players out of 275 players, you need to play well and you need some good fortune along the way.
Jonathan has shoved here on the button, and we're getting down in that 15 to 17 big blind range.
Yeah, he's got about 18. He's sitting about 18 big blinds. Ed Sebasta, who is the effective stack at the moment, is down to about maybe 17 or 16. He just lost 2 players. He's got he's got 1.2.
No, 1.2, yeah.
Yeah, so he's got less than that.
Because he
he's about
he
15,
just defended his big blind
blinds,
last hand and lost to a c-bet from Alan.
He's considering.
Wish you did this last hand.
A real head scratcher. Literally.
I forgot about the food, too.
It doesn't seem like he's going to go with this one. Body language tells me he doesn't love his hand unless he's putting some ultra Hollywood act here.
We saw him make what we considered him a little bit of a misstep there with ace-10
with
suited.
The ace-10 3-bet jamming. Yeah, it's
got
it's
lucky.
the type of hand that runs into a range that has you dominated, and he did. He ran into ace-queen. Got lucky, picked up 2 pair.
Seth is going to make the call, though, on Jonathan with an ace-jack. And
Jonathan
he looks like he caught Jonathan with his head in the
5?
cookie jar. I think I saw an ace-5.
I mean, 4-handed, an ace-5 is a huge hand. Jonathan with 18 big blinds himself, or maybe even less. A couple rounds have passed. He's supposed to shove that. So.
And Seth's certainly supposed to call with an ace-jack
exactly.
suited.
So, and
especially
as
loose as
scenario,
Jonathan's
it's
been
a
playing.
bit of a cooler, right? That somebody behind, especially the chip stack behind. I mean, he's is waking up with a bigger ace.
I've got an ace on the button, 4-handed, and I've got less than 20 bigs. It's not certainly an unusual play.
Yeah, Jonathan's going for the win. I mean, there's 160,000 in the pot. He's picking up. He's adding about 10% to his stack if he just steals the blinds, and he could get called by like a
goodness
king,
gracious dream flop for Seth here.
Yeah, this is Seth's tournament.
Jonathan's walking halfway out the door almost already on that board. He just needs running straight cards or a 5.
Yeah,
running 5s, excuse me. And there's one of them. Hello.
We got 1-5 in the deck.
We saw what the Patriots did yesterday.
Can he do? That would be something. He'll be the New England in this scenario, coming back from a huge deficit 4th quarter and getting that.
It is not coming out for him on this one. Just 1-5. He needed 2. And Jonathan, who certainly has been one of the. I mean, again, we do not have hole cards, as some of our viewers have complained about because of Louisiana State gaming rules, and it would have been fun to see all the hands that Jonathan had been raising with by far our most aggressive player here throughout the course of this final table. But he is eliminated in 4th place, and he is going to take home just over $18,000 for his efforts in this main event. So we are now down to our final 3 players. Ed Sebesta, the Robin Hood of this tournament, going to be giving away his
he's the Barry Greenstein. He's the Barry Greenstein
exactly.
of the HPT New Orleans final table.
Seth Foster, who has certainly proven that he has belonged and shown his mettle here, and Alan Kessler, the grizzled veteran. Fighting for our first place prize of just under $60,000 in cash, as well as a Tournament of Champions package, which is just over $3,500. I don't know who that is waving behind the camera there. I don't know if that's Seth's parents or perhaps some people cheering on Ed. That's actually Jonathan Hart's 2nd and 4th place finish at an HPT final table. He was 4th in a Pittsburgh event for his previous best finish on the Heartland Poker Tour. So congratulations to him. Seth with back-to-back
eliminations. I think he eliminated 3 of the last. 3 of the last 3 guys, I believe so.
Yeah, he eliminated Jeff. He eliminated Jonathan. Was he the one who knocked out Big Phil, or was that somebody else?
Or, no, I think that was Alan, right?
Yes, that was Alan, because he won he took the side pot there. He bet
so
with the straight on the turn.
He's eliminated 3 of the last 4 players, and he's up over $5 million.
2 of the last 3, Gene got knocked out by Ed. So 2 of the last 3 for Seth.
Well, John Holly's prediction is surely coming to fruition here. Seth is separating himself from the field. He's got more than the next 2 opponents combined at $5 million.
Well over half the chips in play.
He's got 62% of the chips in play. And we could be looking at heads up soon if Alan wakes up with a hand here.
Ed with the shove there out of the big blind.
And as you can see,
out of the small
when Ed has a hand, he's very quick to just get it all in there. So when he does sit there,
Ed does not think a lot.
Yeah, he doesn't. When he gets excited and just shoves it in there when he has something good. So when he's sitting there thinking, scratching his head, that's an indication usually that he'll fold.
How does that work?
Once again, gray chips 5,000, blue chips 25,000. Tan chips are 100,000, and you can see the big pile of those that Seth has in front of his stack right now.
So I got Alan at about 1.8, and then Ed is down to 1.1 million, which he's down to about 14 bigs. Which puts Seth at about 5.25.
Your son? Yeah. Okay.
We might actually have that up a little bit more there, 5.6 for Seth.
Okay.
Because of those tan chips out in front. Yeah, he's got more than 20 in the tan right there in that front stack. So it's about $2.5 million alone.
I'll still trust my chip counts because there's 8.24 million in play, and if he's got 5.6, that'd be an extra 500,000 chips. So I think Ed is at about 1.1, and you guys have him at 980. He's actually close to 1.2.
Close to 1.2, it looks like.
And then Alan, so I think he sets probably at about 1.3 or 5.3. Regardless, he still has more than the other 2 guys combined.
Yep.
And then some. Now this is huge for Ed. You should realize he only has an M of 7, which means that it's costing him 150,000 per round.
And a round is only 3 hands.
Only 3 hands, right? So every 3 hands, he's losing more than 10% of his stack. He's losing about 14% of his stack. So he you know, he needs to make a move pretty quick.
Alan showing a big ace there that he raised with.
And Alan and Seth both are aware of that, and they're just going to try to grind down Ed. That would be the ICM proper way to play right now, is grind down Ed to where he's forced to go all in, get it heads up, and may the best man win.
And I'm sure that several dozen of our stream watchers here on Twitch are coming up with their own joke about Alan Kessler being a best man in any situation, but we'll leave that to you.
Yeah, we have 262 of you guys joining. Thank you. And,
absolutely.
Coon Hunter 507 on the chat says that I think he's speaking about Seth Foster, that said that he's from Shreveport and he plays there and he's seen him around. So
okay.
So he's definitely probably originally from Shreveport, Louisiana, and he probably still plays in his home casino when he goes
I wonder
back.
how far, you said this, we have on our sheet here that he resides in Texas. Of course, Texas is a big state and certainly has a border with Louisiana, so he could be
tied for my best player.
Where in Texas did he say he's in?
DeBerry, Texas is what I have here. Yeah.
What is it?
DeBerry, Texas, D-E-B-E-R-R-Y. Ed has gone all in here.
DeBerry, Texas is 36 miles from Shreveport.
Okay, so there you go. It is right on the East Coast, so East Coast of Texas. So
he chose to list, and his Hendon mob is the big city next to him, which is Shreveport, which is about 30 miles away. But his hometown is DeBerry, Texas.
I mean, that's literally. I mean, you can almost walk across the from the border of Texas and Louisiana to get and reach DeBerry.
Walking 32 miles.
Well, I mean, from the border right there, it looks like it's only about 10 miles or so on the map.
Over here with the, yeah, they were going to do commentary.
So our two Texans and Alan Kessler,
really funny if they were both doing commentary.
jet-setting bon vivant.
I don't have aces or ace 10.
Alan is excited. You can see it in his face. He is so happy to be here.
I think he actually might be happy for a change. He laments, you know, always busting with the best hand all the time, to be in a situation right now where he's had a lot of good hands and he's had a couple of suckouts that have gone his way, and to be in his element competing, you know, three-handed for an HPT bracelet.
He's guaranteed
I think
$25,650, which pretty much for sure puts him ahead in his slot machine losses here. So
yeah, I would imagine so.
For the year, no.
Well, then
not free slots for
probably
the year.
till Valentine's Day,
the next
maybe.
couple of months, maybe.
He'll be able to play video poker till Valentine's Day and free roll.
We have our friend Kurt Fowler here from the Windy City Poker in Chicago, my fellow Chicagoan here in the booth.
Yes, Nick Jivkov is my colleague here today, is a poker player from, you know, we've seen him several times at our stops in East Chicago. Probably our
it's my hometown,
one
Chicago,
of our
baby.
One of our two probably most popular venues that the HPT travels to.
I thought you were going to say one of the two most popular players that play your venues.
Well, that might be true as well. I'm not entirely sure.
I was going to say, all right, I'll take it. Greg Casino is the most popular. I'll take the number 2 spot.
It's a rare
occasion
rare
that we didn't see
a rare
Greg
HPT
Casino,
event we did not see Craig Casino at this year. I think he might have been on the cruise.
He took a little break off. I don't think he went to the cruise. I think he had like some family stuff going on, and we are going to see Craig in Colorado, our next stop, coming up in a couple of weeks.
Craig, of course, the all-time HPT money winner, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Craig's Hendon Mob reads all HPTs. I think he did have a win in Chicago. The CPC, his biggest one, I think, came in Chicago.
I remember
the opening event. 30-some-hundred players.
I actually dealt that event back in the day. I remember either I was on the final table or I was on break when he won. And he was about as gracious a winner as I had seen in a while at that time. And we always enjoy having Craig out. He's certainly a credit to the game.
He's a great player. And to remind everybody, our next stop, please come and join us. It's coming up. Colorado Golden Gates is one of the bigger stops of the tour from February 9th. And the main event starting on February 15th. I'm sorry, 5A. And there's 3 starting flights.
4 actually.
It's actually 4. You're right.
Yeah.
4 starting flights. It's a 1,650 buy-in. 4 starting flights starting Wednesday, February 15th, and the final flight 5D on Saturday, February 18th. So if you can come and join us, it's a great place up in the mountains.
I believe that's our record, right? Is where we've had the biggest
that is
main
the
event.
record.
Was
Yes.
at that casino, and it's actually
Is Craig Casino won that?
It's similar to this in that it's a pretty small venue.
It's a very small
not
venue,
a whole lot of
beautiful
tables,
place up
but
in the
we keep
mountains,
it
right.
crammed, and there will not be a lack of play there for sure.
That's the biggest first place prize money awarded. Craig Casino ended up winning that. He was down to, I think they were talking about it in the last broadcast, he was down to like a quarter of a big blind, with 3 or 4 tables to go, and he ended up winning the whole thing for over $360,000.
The old chip in a chair.
The old chip in a chair.
Mr. Jack Strauss.
What do we have going on here? We got Ed getting ready to make a
Ed
raise.
throwing some chips into the middle here.
Ed is saying, I'm here
From
to
the
play.
small
He's
blind.
chipped up to about 1 point.
He's had a couple raising
3,
tickets
4, 5.
here.
He's about 1.7
He's opened
million
up
now.
his game certainly 3-handed, and I wonder if he got a little bit of coaching about that during the break. And we are going to see a flop here as Seth defends his big blind. 280,000 was the pre-flop action, and we've got an interesting little board here. And not even thinking about it, Ed insta moves in and Seth insta calls.
Wow, he's got does he have a royal flush draw with the 10 queen of spades?
We do, and Ed was on a stone cold bluff here with Jack 8 of diamonds.
Wow, he is drawing pretty slim.
Because any Jack obviously gives Seth the straight, so he's looking for 8s at this
An
point.
offsuit 8. He only has two 8s in the deck.
There's not even any runner outs really that can help him.
Queen
Oh,
10.
good Lord,
my
look at
God,
that.
And he hits the 8 of hearts.
That is
And he
nutty,
goes
but
to
Seth is
60,
still
Seth still has plenty
3
of
to
outs.
2 dog, only a 3 to 2
Any
dog here
10,
to pull this
any
back
queen, any spade.
Queen of Hearts turns it right back around. Well, that was certainly a little bit of excitement here that we haven't seen a whole lot of similarly at the final table. But Ed, who, believe it or not, had been extraordinarily tight, and we assumed that he always had big hands, really only had one minor misstep throughout the whole final table, just goes absolutely bonkers here with Jack 8 suited, almost gets there, only to get re-sucked out on.
Yeah, that was a move. That was the same move that Big Phil did back. Just
exactly.
Open ripping it in the ace king, and you know what? It would have worked. Had Seth now woken up with a monster draw, royal flush draw. He had the queen 10 of spades.
And you never fold a royal flush draw ever in the history of poker. That's one of the
not
rules.
in this situation.
And certainly not
against,
three-handed in the final table.
Like a 20 big blind stack three-handed.
Sure.
So let's say if Seth had anything, but that hand, like pocket 10s, 9s, some type of an under pair, maybe even just a bad king, with the reputation that we had from Ed, he might have folded there, and that move might have worked. But he ended up walking into a monster draw, sucked out on the turn with the only one of the 2 8s that he could hit that didn't lose him the hand, and then Seth came back around and hit the queen in the river.
That would have been like if the Falcons had scored in overtime last night as opposed to the Patriots.
That's right. And Seth Foster
he's a huge chip leader now.
He's a huge chip leader. Everything is going his way. He's getting the cards. He's getting the flops. He's not, getting unlucky. So Alan Chainsaw Kessler has some work ahead of him.
And they will be going heads up here at the final table. Seth Foster and Alan Kessler after this short timeout here on Twitch TV with the Heartland Poker Tour.
Good job.
I don't have any fans here, and his abandoned him.
We have more players than audience.
All right, we started with 200.
75 players. Down to our final 2 players. Let's give them both a round of applause. Go ahead, guys. Let's give them Seth. All right, guys. Nice job. Down to our final 2. Second place today is going to receive $38,279.
We have to hold it.
First place, $59,891. Our chip counts before we begin here. Seth in the 6 seat, or Seth in the 3 seat, has $6,680,000. Alan in the 7 seat has $1,565,000. Fred, go ahead and wash up, get ready to go. Once again, 6.6 to 1.5. We have about 20 minutes left at this level. We're still at 10,000 ante. 40,000, 80,000 on the blinds. Go ahead and deal.
All right, and welcome back to Heads Up Play here at Boomtown, New Orleans Casino. It's our Heartland Poker Tour main event. We are down to the final 2 players, Seth Foster from DeBerry, Texas, just outside of Shreveport, so reasonably local, and of course Alan Chainsaw Kessler from Las Vegas. Seth has a 4-1 chip lead as we enter Heads Up Play. Dominic Siebert here with you with Nick Jivkov. And right away, Seth is going to put Alan to the test. And Alan is going to lay it down here. As we were talking about during the break, Nick, Alan, again, is going to be be enough
Alan
chips to where he's going to have to make a move
140,000
pretty soon
chips every hand. So, I mean, well, not actually, because now we're down to heads up. So whatever blind and the ante, so he's either losing 50,000 or 90,000 respectively in the blinds. But I expect Seth.
So you're talking though 10 back and forths.
Yeah, 10 back and forths, and this thing is going to be, unless Alan doubles up, this thing is going to be over quite short. I mean, it's going to be over pretty soon because I expect Seth, with any opening hand, he's going to put Alan all in. Alan is down to 20 big blinds. Seth has 85 big blinds. He's got 81% of the chips in play, so he's going to put ultimate pressure and pretty much just shove every hand. There's no other play that he can make. I don't expect him to ever limp on the button. I don't expect him to just min-raise and fold. So,
now, how aggressive do you think Seth is going to be if Alan is raising pre-flop as far as playing back at him?
He's not going to be playing back at him unless he has a hand. He doesn't need to double up Alan. He can afford to lose. You know, I don't think. I mean, Seth is a good player from what I can see. I think he's not going to make a mistake here. He knows that he has a huge chip advantage. So, like in this case, we saw him just fold the button and give Alan a walk, which is not detrimental to the stack at all. So he's just going to wait. He's going to polarize his ranges big time here, and he's not going to, he's going to wait for like a. If he knows his push fold ranges, he should win this thing quite easily.
And Alan's going to notice that too. That
good, huh?
that he's going to fold a button to him and say, okay, well, this is obviously not a guy who I'm going to be able to exactly,
I mean, Alan's
situation.
hand is pretty much he's handcuffed right now, so it's not like he can outmaneuver him much. There's
Wait.
Yeah, I folded.
Yeah, he folded. Yeah. No, I'm the button this hand. I even put my 40 out. Yeah, you just open folded.
You see our HPT tournament bracelet in the center of the table right there, along with all the monies. Once again, first place for this event is just under 60,000 in cash, along with an HPT seat. Total value is around 63,000 plus. Second place, 38,000 and change. And we do want to give a quick shout out to our third place finisher, Ed Sebesta, who busted before our last break. $25,649 will be donated to the Congregation of the Holy Cross. I believe that's in Richmond, Texas, that Ed said he was donating all of his winnings to. So
$25,000 donation.
So very nice gesture on the part of Ed there.
Amazing.
For his third place finish here today.
And they're effectively playing, Seth Foster and Alan Chainsaw Kessler effectively playing for $21,000 difference between first and second place. That's not a lot of money for Alan. It's just one jackpot win.
That's
so
right. He hits the royal flush on the video poker, and
that's it.
Yeah. And we're going to have our first flop of this heads-up action as Alan $250,000 raise pre-flop was called by Seth. And another one of our Raz flops that we've had here throughout this tournament. And Alan shoves on the C-bet, and quick fold from Seth means Alan will get some of those chips back that he's lost the last couple of hands pre-flop.
If by some way Alan does tend to chip up a little bit, we could see a long heads-up battle.
That is very possible.
If he doubles up, we're effectively going to be about 45 big blinds each, which can make this a very long battle. So let's see what happens. And I don't expect any big, huge fireworks early on unless we have some type of a cooler situation. Alan is the type of player who's very patient. He's not going to make a mistake in this spot.
And the second flop here is this time we have a limped pot. You said you weren't expecting to see a lot of, but we have one here.
Well, have in mind now, Alan is chipped up a little bit with a couple of the pots that he won. So he now all of a sudden we're looking about 75 bigs to 30 bigs, close to 30 bigs. So.
Very dry flop there, and Alan bet the ace on the turn. And when a lot of people who aren't used to heads-up play, which these two were certainly not in that category, but people who aren't used to seeing it certainly a whole lot, you got to remember that this is one of those situations where you are literally winning or losing every single pot. It's not like, oh, I just lost an ante this time and I can wait for the button to come back around and be totally different dynamic.
Right. Yeah, heads-up play is very, very different than any other play. Ranges open up huge here. You should be, I expect Seth should be raising like 90% of his hands from the button, putting a lot of pressure on Alan.
Alan bets on the 6-10 queen flop and takes this one down.
And he just won 3 in a row.
Yeah.
He's chipping up slowly. He's over the 2 million chip mark.
Well, he knew going into this, obviously. Again, we've referenced the Super Bowl a lot, obviously, because it was yesterday, because it was just a historic game. But what did we hear all in the post-game interviews, from the Patriot players and are down 20-3? Obviously, we can't score, 25 points in one drive. We just got to make one play at one time, and that's got to be Alan's situation here, being down 4-1, starting heads up. He's not going to be able to, unless, like you said, a cooler comes out, he's not going to be able to make, 2 or 3 million chips in one hand. He's going to have to go hand by hand, just keep pecking away with that little hammer and chisel and see if he can get it down to maybe a more reasonable situation as opposed to 4-1, maybe a 3-2 situation. And now Alan is going to re-raise here from the big blind, making it 600,000 on a 3-bet. And as we talked about before, the number of times Alan Kessler 3-bets is not very often. And so Seth is going to have to factor that into his decision-making here and decides to lay this one down. And again, Alan gets another little nice boost to his stack here. And he is now, for the first time today, over the 2 million chip count.
Yeah, we're down.
Now,
so far,
it's
Alan
gone from 4-1 to 3-1.
Taking control of this heads-up match and says, "I'm not going to be easy. You're not just going to walk all over me. I will raise you." So let's see if. Now this is interesting to see the dynamic now. To see the body language Alan is consistently winning pots, how that's going to affect Seth.
Yeah, Seth is sitting up a little bit straighter now in his chair, saying, okay, all right, battle is truly joined.
Yeah, everything so far has been going smooth as sails for him this final table. So let's see if he starts to run into some turbulence, if that's going to change something. And Alan
has just shoved a 4-bet jam from Alan Kessler and a call.
And
pocket nines here for Seth, and a pocket pair it looks like as well for Alan.
I think
This
Alan
could be over quick. It looks like nines versus fives.
5 of hearts. Seth is currently in the lead here.
It is indeed. Alan does have one open suit with the spades,
pair
but
versus pair, cooler situation, and Seth is
he's 4-1 to claim the title.
First title. Let's see if Alan can pull a 2-outer. He did buy
now
in.
Alan Kessler is thinking, where are all these small flops that we've seen the entire day?
Alan Kessler did buy in 5 times in
He
this
did.
event. So let's see if he can pull out the magical 5. That's not going to do it.
No help. Now still down to 2 outs here, and this is going to be a short heads-up battle.
Fives on the river, where he's going to leave us in second place. Let's see the river card. River card is the 4 of spades.
Almost, but not quite. A 4 of spades, and just like that, Seth Foster has become our HPT main event champion here at our first event here at Boomtown in New Orleans. He wins $59,891 plus a $3,600 championship seat to our Tournament of Champions. So close, but yet so far still for Alan Kessler. I believe this is his 5th final table. 2nd is his best finish. Still looking for that
Always
first
the
title.
bridal maid, never the bride.
But he's going to take home $38,279. But as we talked about, Alan has admitted both in public and in private that he's been a little bit fortunate to have made it this far. Had a couple of situations where he was way behind and was able to pull out some wins during the course of this event. But coming up here, obviously in a cooler situation, as we said, nines against fives, pocket pairs heads up. That's going to happen almost all the time where you're going to see things getting in
heads
pre-flop.
up with 20-some big blinds.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a type of a cooler situation. Everybody played the hand the way they were supposed to. And congrats to my friend John Holly. He did call it at 1 o'clock, 2 hours earlier when there was 8 players left. He said that Seth Foster is the best player in this table, and he is going to end up walking away with the win. And as predicted, Seth Foster just ran away with the title. He knocked out most of the players towards the end. He got into heads up, having a 4-1 chip advantage, and everything went his way, smooth sailing. He didn't have any turbulence the whole final table. And as you can see, we got it in 5s versus 9s.
Yeah, we had a couple of the more inexperienced players kind of bounce out early, and then the big win, obviously, for Seth was the heads up against Jeff Sager.
Yes.
Jeff ended up finishing 6th, and Seth won that. Was it 8s against Ace Queen, I believe, and he flopped an 8 and basically
flopped an 8. Yeah, he snap
won it
called
right
the
on the
Ace
flop.
Queen 3-bet all in, which was a little bit questionable. We talked about that, and he flopped an 8, and from that
ended
point
up getting
on,
a full house, and
back.
he had about a million more chips than anybody at the table after winning that hand, and he never relinquished any, and he never took a step back, and never let anybody else get back in the game and seriously challenge him for this championship.
It's beautiful when the final tables goes this smooth. I've been in a couple when I won my bracelet. That's kind of how I won. I knocked out 6th player all the way through first place, and it kind of seemed like nothing could go wrong. You're getting the hands, you're getting the flops, you're not getting bad beat. So my heads up won a little bit more turbulent than this did. I had Brian Pellegrino in 3 times all in, and he ended up spiking some type of miracle and came back. But eventually I ended up winning anyway. So it's beautiful when you can get it all in, pair over pair, and hold up, and just congratulations to Seth. Great job.
You have to imagine if Seth, sleeping on this last night, knowing he was going to make the final table, says, well, geez, if this could happen just this way and this way and this way, and boy, it certainly planned out, I'm sure, just exactly as he could have hoped and dreamed, and he is our main event champion here at the Heartland Poker Tour in Boomtown, New Orleans. Once again, we'd like to thank everybody for coming out during the course of this series. I believe we had well over 1,000 players for all the events combined here, and $264,000 prize pool for our main event, and we were able to hit our big guarantee for event number 1.
Yeah,
so a huge
showing.
credit.
And for everybody out there, Seth came in second short stack in this final table with only 12 big blinds, and he's walking away with $60,000 in the win. So don't ever panic. Do not panic, and
and don't go crazy. But he did not come in to say he wasn't firing earlier.
At Boomtown Casino, where we had 275 players in the main event, Seth Foster, our new main event champion. Now, Seth, you came into the final table,
and we're going to head
chips.
now
What was your
to
strategy
Jeremy
throughout
Smith
the day?
Interviewing.
I told some friends on the phone today, I think if I get a double early, I can win. And I ended up chipping up early, got a couple of shoves through, and then like aces against king helped. And I lost. I mean, I didn't lose a single all in, so that's the best strategy, I think. Yeah,
a lot of flips throughout the day. You won a lot of all ins there. You played great throughout the day. Almost $60,000 in cash, $3,600 championship package, and the HPT main event bracelet. Any plans for the money?
No, I'm just gonna put it away and enjoy having it there.
Okay. Any future HPT events in mind?
I think I'll be in Blackhawk in like 2 weeks, right?
Yeah, Blackhawk's one of our biggest events of the year, so
yeah.
Good luck there. So 275 players. Our new winner, Seth Foster. Thank you, everyone. Let's give him a round of applause. Our new winner, Seth.
Thank you, Jeremy, for that interview with our new HPT main event champion, Seth Foster. Jeremy Smith, of course, our tournament director here at the Heartland Poker Tour. And once again, as we were saying there, we'd like to thank everybody for coming out here to Boomtown in New Orleans and supporting our first venture down here to the Gulf Coast in quite a while. We are going to be at the Golden Gates in Colorado coming up here in a couple of weeks. And then, of course, Belterra, Kentucky-Indiana border, and then back to the real Heartland, I suppose you would say, at St. Charles in April. And another one of our, certainly our bigger stops that we have on the Heartland Poker Tour. So we'd like to thank you all for tuning in here on our Twitch feed, on Twitch TV. Heartland Poker Tour, Dominic Siebert and Nick Jivkov. Thank you for tuning in. Have a good day, a great weekend, and we'll see you next time on the Heartland Poker Tour.
May the cards be with you guys. Bye.